close to 3 years. TRRS shocked.
Two, check. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, folks? Here at Scary. Fellow sickos. All the worst people on Twitter are trying to dunk on the mayor of Calgary for not attending
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Israel. We rockin' with new Fortnite season?
Hey, Sasha, thanks so much for 8 months. Tier 1. I appreciate it, and yes, we are. I'm enjoying it. I have actually already picked up 3 solo victory royales so far this season, but it's not a big deal. You know, like, who cares? Who cares if I'm good at Fortnite, other people are, you know, it's just for fun. So who's counting even? Who's counting even the number of victory royales that they're racking up? I mean, it barely ever occurs to me. I did have a little session this morning though, and just got demolished every single time. I'll just to couple that with the bragging I was just doing. I tried to play a little bit this morning, and I just got repeatedly owned. I did get a crown victory the other day. That was neat. Very nice. Very nice. We should get a TRRS Fortnite squad going sometimes. You play no build, always. Always no build. Was over to see the turtleneck tracksuit combo. How iconic. Absolutely iconic fit. Val Kilmer in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which we watched last night. Which I really enjoyed. I was a little bit thrown off. Like, I hadn't seen it in like a couple years. And definitely some of the humor in it has aged poorly. Some of it is very frat boy, mid-2000s, like bro banter, which hasn't aged that well, but a lot of it still is just excellent and really, really
You can count
funny.
on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Slub me to the limit one more time.
Slub me to the limit, past the point of no return. Thank you, Crackle Bear, for 27 months, tier 1. Yeah, I did really enjoy revisiting it, though. I think I prefer the Nice Guys in the Shane Black verse. Oh, and Sam Sider, thanks for 31 months, tier 1 as well. Resub before the show even started. Thank you, Sam, for that also. Some of it didn't hold up. I think I prefer the Nice Guys, which is almost the exact same movie. It's almost the exact same movie in many ways, just with a different cast and a slightly updated humor, the 70s setting. But it's still very enjoyable. There's some really fucking great parts to that. I love the end when he tries to do like the Russian roulette thing in the end with the bad guy. That's one of my favorite parts. That was fun. That was very fun. Ryan Gosling needs to stop being a brooding man in dramas and go after his true calling, a comedy buffoon. He's so fucking funny in that movie. Like, he is so funny. And it's interesting because you have Gosling and the Nice Guys and Robert Downey Jr., and they both just get the shit beat out of them, like, throughout the movie. Robert Downey Jr. keeps getting his finger ripped off. And then eventually gets eaten by a dog. That part's very funny as well. But yeah, Gosling in that movie is basically like a Looney Tunes character. Like, it's absurd. It's so great. I still really did love revisiting it, though. It's really one of my favorite non-Die Hard Christmas action movies. You know, sometimes you feel a little guilty ordering in. You know, the other night I was like, should I really spend $50 on Indian food right now? Is that a good idea? But when you end up getting like 3-4 meals out of it, it's actually quite economical. I had a nice dinner and 2 nice lunches out of that. $50. Well, Canada is expensive. I also ordered a lot of Indian food. So that one was partially on me. You can't afford not to. That's right. Well, I try to, I try to keep the fridge stocked. I cook at least 5 times a week, which I think is pretty reasonable. That's fair, and Indian food generally kicks ass. Yeah, and it's one. I've got a number of really good Indian places, like in the neighborhood where I live. I'm so spoiled. I have a bunch of really good Indian places, a bunch of really good Middle Eastern places, and a bunch of really good Korean places, like directly outside where I live. It is nice. It's very nice. There are all top tier cuisines. It is true. Don't mind me, folks. Just give me a moment here. What's your favorite Korean dish that's not spicy? I live near a bunch of Korean places. Don't know what to order. It depends on the restaurant, obviously. There's a Korean place near me that does a seafood pancake, which is unbelievably good. It is unbelievably good. I think if you want like a rice and meat kind of dish, you can get like bulgogi, I think it's called. That's usually not very spicy. See if you can find a seafood pancake, though, because that's really, really good shit. I did see that deck, dude. I love the reaction of the guy, the chef guy. Okay. I remember when I worked in a print shop, I was outside on a break, and a random boomer couple came by and asked, "Any good restaurants around here?" And I said there was a nice Thai place, and they scouted and said, "How about American? How about American?" It's interesting how... Have you ever read that story, Bleep Lord, or I guess this applies to anyone else, about how, like, the Thai government, like, subsidizes Thai restaurants? That's why you can find a Thai restaurant in, like, every random town that you go into, almost. You can almost always find a Thai restaurant. It's because, like, the Thai government is doing this kind of, like, culinary imperialism. And it's not, I mean, that's obviously, yeah, food imperialism, that's right. And they actually subsidize these restaurants, so it's like, that's why they've got Thai restaurants everywhere. And it's delicious. I'm glad that they do that, just to be clear. I'm not complaining about this. I think I would rather a country did culinary imperialism than, like, overthrowing, elected political officials and assassinating people and organizing military coups and doing sanctions regimes and blockades and that kind of stuff. I would much prefer the food version. They, among others in the region, deserve to be a food hegemon. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Invading the states with a well-flavored cuisine. We're going to force you to season your food whether you like it or not. If they replaced our electoral institutions with Thai restaurants, I wouldn't complain. No. Society would instantly improve significantly. I'd probably coup a government or two if they tried to take away my Thai food. Absolutely. Fantastic. I'm planning some pretty wild stuff for the next year. I don't know if it's going to work out, but just checking the old DMs there. All war should be related to food. It should be done via Iron Chef competitions. It would certainly be a more sane way of doing things. Culinary colonizers like Israel need not apply. Yeah, it's exactly. That's like the opposite of that process. Instead of taking your delicious food and using that to like create influence in other cultures and nations, it's like you're taking other people's delicious food and then trying to be like, look at our amazing culinary traditions. And it's like you just stole that. And look at, I don't know, this keeps coming up. I don't know if it's boring to keep talking about, but it's truly, the food aspect about Israel is so amazing, especially considering the incredible like Jewish culinary legacy, with some absolutely up there with just about any kind of like culinary tradition, cultural culinary tradition. Right up, I'd rank that right up there with just about anything. And they're like, no, we don't claim any of that stuff. We're just going to claim a bunch of Arabic stuff that we had nothing to do with. In New York alone, or Montreal, is a central part of Montreal culture. Yeah, and so I shouldn't talk about this that much because this is really something that I've just been thinking about lately, and something that I think I'm going to try to put out some little feelers about. But I am kind of like, I'm starting to get this kind of crazy idea to see if I can like go visit somewhere in probably Latin America or elsewhere in the global South. From like on like a journalism, like on like a journalist capacity, and I'm kind of seeing to put out some feelers to see if I could maybe do something like that. Rob on the scene. This streamer is what an AI would spit out if you asked it to generate an image of a Canadian. Maybe, yeah. Maybe. If I had like a Labatt Blue in my hand, and like maybe like a hockey hat or something, like a Maple Leafs or a Oilers trucker hat or something, that would probably take it to the next level. A toque, that's right. Handsome Canadian AI prompt on screen. Well, up the Reds. Come on. Flattery will get you everywhere. Yeah, I mean, covering the Guyana stuff is oh my goodness, Lodane coming in hot there too. Jesus. Guyana's probably going on like right now. It's probably like this is more something that I'm thinking about for, later going into the next year or whatever. There is there next year, folks. There's the most important election of our lifetimes. There's the most important election of our lifetimes next year when our guy, Nicolas Maduro, in the Venezuelan presidential election, and maybe, just maybe, a silly, chill Canadian guy needs to go over to check that out and make sure everything's on the up and up. It's crazy. People are just opining when they found out yesterday there's a dispute over maritime rights there. As long as there's some ultra communists online that have an opportunity to talk about Venezuelan imperialism, you know that there's like going to be a chance to do that with people that just heard about this situation this week. You need a one-on-one interview with Guaido. I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so this is something I'm actually planning to talk about. I've been talking about how we need to focus on this. A little bit, and I wanted to learn more about what's happening. So I actually invited on a former guest of the show. That's President Guaido to you. Thank you, Orb Lady, for correcting everyone on this. Nothing but respect for my president. Okay. The NATO heads already have the Guyanese flag in their screen names. And that I don't doubt that it's not a joke, James. And that should be all the indication that we need to know what, not that it matters, but which side we should be probably supporting on this one. Get Guaido on the Guai show. That would be a good idea. Anyway, I did invite back onto the stream a former guest of the show who's going to come on. I wanted tomorrow, but now I realize that I can't tomorrow. I don't think I can stream tomorrow because my kid's school is on strike, and his school is going to be on strike for the next week, starting tomorrow. So I think this is probably the last stream of the week. But I'm hoping for Monday to talk to Camilla of Kausachin News, and also the Latin American correspondent at Press TV. I don't think I know her last name. Is it Prensa? I really don't know. I should probably learn that. But Camilla from Kausachin News and Press TV is going to come on the show to talk about a number of things. Like she made sure to let me know that she's not an expert on the history of Guyana, and British influence there. You know, but she covers a lot of what's happening in Latin America, and she's also covers, she's based partially in Canada as well. So Prensa means press. Well, there we go. That's not it. that is not it. I'll make sure to get to the bottom of that. But yeah, she does. I mean, she covers Latin America a lot. She talks about Canada, so we can talk about Canada's role both in Israel, Palestine right now, and Canada's role in Latin America and Venezuela, and can talk a little bit about this current dispute and how Exxon fits into it. So I think we can cover a lot of bases with Camilla, hopefully on Monday. I made an agreement to do tomorrow, and now I realize that I cannot. But she is going to come back on the show, which should be fantastic. If she was a man, Rob would know her name, but it's not written anywhere. I'm looking at her Twitter account, Instagram account. It's just not. It doesn't seem to be actually written down anywhere. Rob, what's my last name? Your last name is Irisian. Right? Huh? Huh? I pronounce it Irisian usually, but okay. I think the judges say that that counts. Rob doxing live on. I was asked a specific question. I really just can't find Camilla's last name anywhere. Maybe she doesn't want us to know her last name. Like, maybe that's why. Maybe she's trying to remember or trying to retain some sense of anonymity, considering she does this kind of like anti-imperialist journalism. And maybe you're wrong, chat. Maybe you're the asshole for encouraging me to look into this. I didn't get a chance to join yesterday, but I was watching the VOD and found it Julia Reinkind. Looks like she removed her photo after TRRS team found her. Says Jules Feldman. Who knows? Yeah, it is Camila Escalante. Okay. Anyway, I knew that, and I was testing you as usual. But Camila Escalante will be coming on the show again. And we can talk about Canada's role in Palestine, Canada's role in Venezuela, the Lima Group, Guaido, and how we should approach this situation in Guyana. It's funny because I asked her about it, and she's just like, I'm probably not going to be objective. It'll probably be more the Venezuelan perspective. Like, I don't know if, and I'm just like, that's totally fine. That's totally fine, actually. I'm totally okay with that. Despite my hard-earned reputation as being a serious, objective journalist, I think this time I might make an exception and just focus mostly on the Venezuelan perspective of this one. Next time, though, I'm going to be really even-handed. Next time. this time I think we'll just go with the Maduro stance and think about it like that. So what's on the docket for today? I mean, there's more news stuff we can talk about. I feel like we're just having the same conversations over and over. I feel myself just going totally crazy lately. Who's going to give us the Exxon perspective? Thank you. I'll have someone else come on to do the Exxon perspective, just so we have a balance of both sides. I'll contact Exxon to get a spokesman to come on as well. Hello, Fox on the wall. How's it going? I find myself just going crazy by, I tweeted something to this effect earlier. A lot of people are getting mad at it, as usual. But about how totally gross it is that the more Palestinians that Israel kills, it seems like the more we're talking about slogans on college campuses and conservative Israel supporting college students feeling uncomfortable and unsafe. And it seems like the more violence and depravity is going on in Israel, Palestine, the more we're hearing this story, and the more they're getting invited to speak at these conferences, and the House is passing these resolutions. We have already talked about it, Fox, but I mean it's going to come up as well because it's all part of a narrative about anti-Semitism and the way that's been used to sabotage and destroy and dismiss any criticism of Israel. It's been going on for years now, but now I think the thing that's making it so insane is that the violence and depravity is at such an all-time level that they're leaning still on this tactic, and it's more insane than usual because the more violence that's happening, there's an actual genocide going on, and all we hear about from our political leaders or media figures is a possible imagined genocide that these college students are apparently allegedly demanding after the deranged accusations of a certain specific group of people and their specific political ideology. And the more we hear about that, and it seems directly related to one another, the more violence it is, the more we're hearing this fucking same story about college professors or college students feeling unsafe and uncomfortable because of people protesting and supporting the liberation of Palestine, supporting the end of the mass murder, supporting the end of the genocide. It's genocidal to protest in support of the end of the genocide. That's where we're at. That's where we're at now. And it's just every single day there's more of these people being interviewed on TV, in Congress, in important hearings, talking about how afraid they are as students right now. They're so afraid. It's genocidal to protest against genocide. This is where this narrative has gotten us now. This is where this absolutely fucking deranged weaponization of Jewish identity and Jewish trauma has gotten us now. This very cynical way that people have weaponized these kinds of issues in order to dismiss and destroy and dismantle every single possible form of protesting or speaking out against the rampant criminality of Israel. Listened to a Palestinian speak at a demo the other day. All of his colleagues kept saying, "Keep talking about us, don't forget us." It made me weep. Yeah, and there's Palestinian students, they're being shot. At the same time, we're hearing that pro-Palestine college students are menaces to society. And this is why I think it was really important to watch that documentary yesterday, The Lobby, and I would like to continue watching that today. Because you see these tactics have just been, they've been used now for years to shut down any criticism of Israel or any support for Palestine on college campuses. And it was the absolutely twisted way they took this incident at UC Davis where they passed this historic BDS resolution, and they turned that in the exact same way that we're seeing now, turned that into this group of anti-Semitic terrorism supporters have taken over the school and are making the conservative pro-Israel students feel unsafe and uncomfortable. You know, I'm just like, I really do want to be sensitive to people's fears and concerns. I know Jewish people are, they do face anti-Semitism in our society. Absolutely. I think that's horrible. I think it's horrifying. But I think it actually does a disservice to that fight, to the fight against anti-Semitism or anti-Jewish racism. I saw Justin Potter talking about this today, which I think is really interesting, where we just need to forget this idea of anti-Semitism and just understand that anti-Semitism has been claimed by people that want to use those accusations to support genocide, support the murder of Palestinians. And that we need to, if we want to talk about anti-Jewish racism, that's the kind of term and phrase we should use. And it makes this problem worse. It enables anti-Semitism. It enables anti-Jewish racists when we create this kind of climate. And this is where I'm at right now. It's like I am sensitive about this. At this point, though, with this certain conflict in mind, if you're a supporter of Israel or Zionism, no matter who you are, no matter what religion you are, because as we know, many of these people who support Israel the most fervently, Zionists, self-described Zionists like Joe Biden, are not Jewish. So it's not really about what your ethnicity is, what your religion is, what your culture is. I don't care. If you're a person right now that supports what Israel is doing and you support the ongoing bombing campaign in Gaza, I hope you do feel uncomfortable. You should feel uncomfortable. You should feel uncomfortable at your school. You should feel uncomfortable in your workplace. You should feel uncomfortable in social environments. I think that's good. I think it's a good thing that people that support that feel uncomfortable. You should feel uncomfortable. You're a terrible person. You're a terrible person. And you're trying to fucking weasel out of the fact that you support this kind of horrendous violence against predominantly children by weaponizing these very serious social justice issues or weaponizing the legacy of Jewish identity or Jewish trauma. I think that's an absolute disgrace. And I think if you're trying to do that to avoid culpability for the genocide that you support, you should feel uncomfortable. No, I know Ropes into Eden. That guy, I never heard of that guy Nomium until a few weeks ago. He started showing up in my mentions all the time. Truly amazing. In fact, let's talk about Jesse Brown. Let's talk about Jesse Brown and that fucking guy that you're referring to. Went from posting about anti-hunting to the most unhinged fucking pro-imperialism. But wasn't it supposed I thought that person was not a DSA person. I clicked when I first noticed that person replying to me, they have followers. They have followers that I know. And I'm very confused because all they seem to support is fucking losing their mind about supporting whatever imperialist endeavor is in vogue at that time. Now freaking the fuck out about people not supporting Israel. It's insane. Oh, the tankies shit never left. It never left. Literally just a right-wing Zionist now. I mean, it's you see how it happens fast. Let's look at this goddamn Jesse Brown tweet. Jesse Brown. Jesse. What an embarrassment that guy is. Jesse, you're not a journalist. You know this. Where's this tweet here? Like this, like whatever fucking credibility this guy once had, we still haven't even listened to his podcast where he talked about this show. I got a Rania RT. Oh, that's good. I love Rania. She's got to come back on the show too. Be happy to talk to her again also. So here's Jesse, like not content now to just like he's fully mask off. He did that whole podcast episode the other day where he actually promised that he would reveal. Yes, I know Rania Calyx last name. Yeah, well, he didn't talk about TRRS Dakadoon. He clipped me. He clipped me in the episode of Canada Land where he talked about. He said he was going to answer these allegations of whether or not he's a Zionist, which of course he did not do. Which I take as an admission that he, in fact, is, number one. But he clipped a whole discussion that we were having with Justin Potter and John Elmer when we were like mocking him over his like whole Indigo, his whole Jewish-owned bookstore framing of the protest and the direct action that was happening at Indigo. Is it for the likes, getting Elon bucks? This is just what he believes. Like, it's just clear. And like I was saying, as much as Jesse is trying to make himself out to be the victim of this moment, like you said the other day, I don't think about what people's culture or their religion is. I don't care. I don't care what I care. I care about what your values are. You know, that's what is important to me. And whatever culture you are, if you stand up for good things and believe in good things, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Whatever culture you are, if you stand up for bad things, I'm against you. And I don't like you. Is that really so complicated? I don't care about what people's culture are.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Well, that's the thing. Jesse Brown the other day, this is Diego, thank you so much for the gifted sub. Jesse Brown the other day was just when someone was making fun of the fact that Jesse is a multimillionaire because he invented Bitmojis. Someone brought that up the other day because what does Canada Land make on Patreon, like $10,000 a month, something like along those lines. And he was talking about how someone was making fun of him for being a multimillionaire who invented Bitmojis. And he was like, oh yeah, all I hear is you're talking about the rich Jew, just can't say it. And it's just like, no one is saying that. That was literally the first I had actually realized that he was Jewish. That was the first time that occurred to me. I did not know that because it's not something I think about. It's not something I think about or something that I care about. What religion or what culture people are. What are we supposed to call rich guys who are also Jewish? It's a great question. Anyway, so he's been on this like, his whole thing is about holding journalists accountable, right? And like trying to be like a media critic. So here he is clipping this segment here where he covering the pro-Israel protest that just happened in Ottawa. The pro-Israel protest. And my basic point about this is, well, we'll see what my basic point is. Well, you know, when there's a country that's engaged in a mass bombing campaign and has just killed 16,000 people, when there's a rally that happens and people show up and wave around the flag of that country, I think that it's really not that much of a stretch that those people support the war and support the things that the country's doing. Apparently to Jesse, though, this is like some outrageous assumption. You should be reviewing people's 23andMe DNA results before you talk about them. That's real journalism. Or real journalism like what Jesse's been doing lately, like putting together lists of like predominantly brown and black journalists who are anti-Semites. That's the reasonable, moderate thing that Jesse's up to right now, putting together lists of people of color journalists and accusing them of supporting terrorism and anti-Semitism. That's the journalism and media criticism that Jesse's doing right now. Anyway, so here's the segment that we're about to see. Jesse says, journalists make mistakes. Some are trivial. This one's dangerous. Jews in Canada are currently being blamed for Israel's actions, which again is not true. No one is blaming Jews for Israel's actions. In fact, as we've pointed out many times now, there is a contingent of Jewish peace activists at every single pro-Palestine rally that you will possibly go to. People who support the end of the war and support all hostages on both sides being released. Surely that's something that we can all rally around. Well, not according to Jesse. Jews in Canada are currently being blamed for Israel's actions. It's the worst wave of anti-Jew hatred in Canadian history. It's the worst wave of anti-Jew hatred in Canadian history. We did used to have a prime minister, William Lyon Mackenzie King, who met with Hitler and said, hey, this Hitler guy's fucking great, and turned away boatloads of Jewish refugees from the Holocaust at that time. But no, apparently these protests where we say free Palestine from the river to the sea is worse than that. And because little mom and pop Jewish owned operations like Indigo are being targeted. That's what Jesse includes in this hostile environment. He says to falsely call peaceful protesters against anti-Semitism and for the release of hostages war supporters is to label them fair game for harassment and even violence. CTV News and Omar Sachedina, another brown journalist, interestingly, have put Jewish Canadian lives in danger. If ever a correction was warranted. Here's the segment. And again, this is about a pro-Israel rally while Israel is engaged in a mass bombing campaign that has killed 16,000 people. Here's the segment that Jesse's objecting to.
In Ottawa, thousands of Jewish Canadians rallied on Parliament Hill in support of the war, while inside Parliament, Palestinian Canadians made a plea for help. Here's CTV's Judy Trin.
Bring them home! Bring them home!
Underneath the Peace Tower, a call for the release of hostages and an end to anti-Semitism in a show of unwavering support for Israel.
In Ottawa,
like, these people are against the idea of a ceasefire. They're waving Israeli flags while Israel has killed over 16,000 people. And I think like we can debate about the number. We all know that it's going to go up. I think the last number that I saw yesterday that was actually confirmed by the health ministry is in the 16,000. So that we all know it's going to go up, but I think that's the number we got to go with right now. What do they want Justin Trudeau to do? He doesn't have the hostages. Yeah, it's like how much more can we support Israel than we already are? Like, what are you protesting? This is what I don't understand. It's like, why are you even protesting? You want the Canadian government to support Israel more than it's currently doing? How exactly? What would that look like? Do you want to send more money and weapons to them than we already are? And that's what Jesse suggests, that description that they support the war is like slanderous and leading to anti-Jew hatred, which is fucking insane. Like if America starts the Iraq war, there's a wave of Iraq war protests, and then someone organizes a counter protest where they're all waving American flags Does that support the Iraq war or whatever American war you want to fill in the blanks, Vietnam or Korea or in Latin America or Africa or wherever else, Middle East, wherever else? You have a counter protest where you're waving around American flags. Do they support the war? Yeah, I would say probably yes. And look at some of these pictures. Look at these signs. Can't make peace with terror with the Israeli flag. They're like objectively against the idea of a ceasefire. That's supporting the war. If you don't support a ceasefire, you support the war. There's no like gray area here. I have people saying like, "Oh, you don't understand. There's people that can support Israel but also support ending the war." And it's like, "No, fuck you. No, there's not." Yeah, ropes into Eden. It's true. It could be a critical message when you think about it, because as we all know, Israel and the IDF and their enablers in the West, the United States government, etc., are the largest purveyors of terror ever in human history. The IDF and Israel is responsible for significantly more terror than Hamas or any other resistance group could ever hope to achieve in an entire lifetime. So yeah, I actually kind of agree with that slogan. But like the idea that like this crowd describing this crowd as supporting the war is some kind of slanderous allegation that makes Jewish people unsafe is absolutely preposterous. Like this guy really thinks he's a goddamn journalist. This guy really takes himself so seriously as one of these media critics doing the real hard-hitting journalism. Like I'm just a shameless, like Sun level propagandist at this point. I'm so sick of the browbeating, the gaslighting, even though that term has been cringified. Honestly, I think gaslighting is a good, like sometimes we misuse gaslighting when it just means lying, right? When someone's just lying, "Oh, you're gaslighting me." Gaslighting is a specific thing where you're deliberately made to feel insane. And I think this absolutely qualifies in this case. I think that you are deliberately made to feel insane in these moments. Like I said, there's nothing that makes me feel more insane when you see crowds of people on college campuses or elsewhere being against genocide, organizing against genocide, against murder, against war, and being claimed in our media and political system that they support genocide. Like, what are we supposed to do with that? That is insane. That's deliberately making you feel insane. The obvious dishonesty accepted as reality launched me into space already. I actually a former prominent Bernie advisor and staffer slid into my DMs the other day because I liked a tweet. Because I liked a tweet about like an old British grandma that was like, if it was my land being stolen and the IDF was coming in to kill my kids, I would support Hamas too. And I was like, well, that was an interesting, oh, that's a cool tweet. That's a good tweet. I liked it. And a former prominent Bernie staffer DM'd me and be like, "I can't believe that you would like this tweet. I've had to get off Twitter because I see all these people that I clearly just like hate Jews and all this stuff." Like went on a big rant in my DMs. Not to name any names, okay? Not to name any names about who this was. It was Sarah Pearl. It was Sarah Pearl that did that. Anyway, they can't deal with any actual claims of Palestinians. They refuse to. They have no comeback. They need to reframe and obscure. And I let her have it in response in the DMs there. You want to know? I actually heard a rumor, and like sometimes I say silly things on this program. I mean, I acknowledge that. I heard a rumor about Jesse Brown from a trusted source. From a misogyny rearing its ugly head again on TRRS. I heard a rumor about Jesse Brown from a trusted source that Jesse likes to hang out with Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson has some kind of weird like home sweat lodge thing attached to his home. Jordan Peterson, and my source informed me, a trusted source informed me that Jesse Brown likes to go hang out in the weird, creepy Jordan Peterson sweat lodge. Who knows what they're doing in there? I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if it's true. I'm simply saying that I heard that from a trusted source. And I believe it. I'm not just making this up. And what's going on with that, I wonder? It's weird for like objective, serious journalists, I think, to be having those kinds of associations, in my view. Jordan Peterson spends all that time in a sweat lodge and his voice is still that creaky. I don't know. It defies the laws of science. It defies the very laws of science. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's kind of a weird thing to do, honestly. And Jesse, if that is true, I'm wondering like what you do that kind of thing for. Why are you hanging out with Jordan Peterson? And if that's not accurate, I'll retract. I'll retract that. I did hear it from a trusted source, though. Getting sweaty with JP. I mean, Jordan Peterson looks moist already, even before going in a sweat lodge. He already has kind of like a moistness to him. He's both moist and dry somehow. Exactly. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, like let's look at a few more of these like fucking testimonies, like to example what I'm talking about with these like college students. Like this is what the more people that Israel kills, the more we're hearing from these absolute losers.
Thank you so much, Representative Fox and Representative Stefanik, for inviting me here today. My name is Talia Khan. I am an undergraduate alumna of MIT and a current graduate student at MIT. I am the daughter of a Jewish mother and an Afghan Muslim immigrant father. I am the proud president of the MIT-Israel Alliance, and I am a Jewish student currently immersed in an extremely toxic anti-Semitic atmosphere at MIT. The MIT administration, namely President Sally Kornbluth, has failed to address the crisis of rampant anti-Semitism on campus.
16,000 people killed.
There is a radical anti-Israel group at MIT called the CAA. In recent weeks, the CAA's anti-Semitic rhetoric has shifted the culture on campus to such an extreme of intolerance that 70% of MIT's Jewish students polled feel forced to hide their identities and perspectives. An Israeli student whose identity and personal info was sold online for a bounty has not left his dorm room in weeks out of fear due to death threats.
Can we see some crying Robs, please?
I was forced to leave my study group for my doctoral exams halfway through
Let's
the semester.
see some crying Robs in the chat,
because my group
please.
members told me that the people at the Nova Music Festival deserved to die because they were partying on stolen land. After a postdoc at MIT said that Jewish Israelis want to enslave the world in a global apartheid system, He falsely claimed that Israel harvests
crocodile
Palestinian
tears.
organs and implied that the, quote, average Israeli is a Nazi. The DEI officer of his department replied by telling us that nothing he said was hate speech and that the organ harvesting conspiracy theory was, quote, confirmed. Day after day, the MIT administration has failed to enforce its own rules on anti-Semitic actors,
the
such
organ
as the
harvesting
interfaith
thing is
chaplain
proven as well,
intimidating
yeah.
Jewish students, DEI staff publicly
She needs to
declaring
go to
that
International
Israel has
Criminal
no
Court
right to
for
exist,
fashion crimes.
faculty dismissing student concerns for their safety by telling them that if they are scared, they should just go back to Israel. CAA protesters blocking the hallways, storming the offices of the MIT Israel internship offices, and harassing the staff and faculty there.
I will no longer be moved by the
outsiders to
crocodile
campus
tears.
to join them in yelling hateful and violent chants. This is the same climate of anti-Semitism that has led to massacres of Jews throughout the centuries. This is not just harassment.
There's massacres going on right
This is
now.
our lives on the line.
There's lives being ended right now
The
by
MIT
Israel.
administration has
There's a
punted
genocide
disciplinary
happening right
processes
now.
to a faculty committee on discipline, which has thus far not received a single one of our complaints. MIT
You're
admin
using this
has
to justify
even failed
massacres.
To staff a new
Again,
task
these people
force
should.
against
You should
hate,
feel bad.
which will
You should
duly
feel
combat
uncomfortable.
Anti-Semitism and Islamophobia.
Actual massacres, not
This
made-up
atmosphere is
ones,
intolerable.
not fantasy ones.
Jewish students do not believe that the
You
MIT
should feel
administration
uncomfortable.
has done an adequate job
I'm
to
glad
make
that you
students
feel
safe on
uncomfortable.
campus.
Actually,
President Kornbluth, please let me go back to being a scientist. Let me go back to being a student. I don't want to have to keep advocating for Jewish student safety on campus.
Don't support apartheid,
It's not
then.
my job. It's your job. Please do your job.
Don't
and
support
act now.
apartheid and you'll be okay.
And if you can't, I'm asking Congress to do it for you.
just stop
Thank you.
supporting apartheid. It's easy. Who is stopping you from going to school? It's amazing. This is exactly why I think it's really important right now that we watched that film, The Lobby, because you see it's the same tactic. It's the exact same tactic every single time there's been violence. Every single mowing of the grass that happens, or through the Great March of Return, or anytime there's any effort to like organize on behalf of Palestine to support BDS, anything. This is always the tactic every single time. And these like politically well-connected Israeli groups are responsible for promoting this exact kind of tactic. And that's the absurd thing now, is they're doing the same tactic that they've been doing for years and years and years and years. But when the violence and depravity is at like an all-time high, and we're all seeing the nonstop footage of women, children, men, nurses, doctors, teachers, aid workers being bombed, maimed, murdered, buried under rubble, fucking parents holding little pieces of their kids while they're going to the hospital. We're all seeing this, and they're still just doing this same tactic. I feel so these chants make me feel so unsafe. I can't go to school. I can't go to school because these pro-terror groups, like, fuck you. This woman is pro-terror. She supports terrorism. All the people that went to that pro-Israel rally, like, despite what Jesse Brown is trying to say, they support terrorism. They support mass murder.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
King of William, thank you very, very much for 5 gifted subs. Very, very kind of you. You know, and I'm tired of this. I understand at one point that we were all kind of paralyzed by these kinds of, this kind of rhetoric, or this kind of tactic. And we were all kind of paralyzed, and we said, oh, we want to make people, we don't want to be accused of this and that, of supporting terrorism, supporting anti-Semitism. We want to make sure we say the right things. We don't want to. I'm done. And you should be done too. Like, we can't. We're not doing this anymore. Really. Like, I'm done. She's mad she had to reschedule her free birthright. There's a couple more of these. House Republicans. They're in, like, they're hauling them in. They're hauling the fucking president of Harvard and MIT and Penn to in front of these congressional hearings where they're suggesting that calling for the genocide of Jews. Again, this is what this is boiled down to, right? When you go and you support Palestine, you go to a protest and you say free Palestine from the river to the sea or whatever. These people have decided that what that means is, and when I say these people, I mean Zionists. And as you know, most of the Zionists in the United States government are Christians. It's not, as much as people have tried to conflate these two things, it has nothing to do with what your religion or your culture is. But they've suggested, they're the ones that have said this, that saying anything to support Palestinians means calling for the genocide of Jews. And they've insisted that that's what the meaning is of all these words and all these sayings and slogans. And now they're hauling in the presidents of these schools to demand them that they silence these student groups who are against genocide and mass murder and ethnic cleansing. It is sick. It's sickening.
At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
They've targeted at individuals,
16,000 people
making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling
of
for
course,
the
calling for genocide of Jews would be a horrible thing.
Intifada.
It wouldn't count as harassment. That's not what's happening, though. That is not happening.
Anti-Semitic, depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
Fucking conservative Republicans, the defender of Jewish
harassment.
People.
So the answer is yes.
Break.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews
no one is doing that.
Upon the context.
Not one person has done that.
That is not bullying or harassment.
Not one person has done that.
This is the easiest.
It's really interesting question too, because if you're supporting Israel, you're calling for the genocide of Palestinians. If you have a pro-Israel rally right now, you're calling for the genocide of Palestinians. That's what's going on. That's what's happening right now. A real genocide, not a fake, pretend, possible Fantasyland version of a genocide that we've imagined in our minds. Yeah, I'm so mad, Jay. I'm so mad looking at this. It's absolutely enraging.
Question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If it if the
yes
speech
or
and
no,
these absolutely pathetic
becomes conduct,
school presidents can't answer the
harassment.
question either.
Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not.
I don't even know if I can look at this. The fake emotion in her voice. I don't even know if I can look at the rest of this. It's too upsetting. It's too fucking annoying. I don't know if I can do this. The indignation in her voice. I don't know if I can watch it. No, I don't know Elise Stefanik. No, I don't. She's the future of the Republican Party. Oh, good. Good. She sounds like my kid demanding to watch TV. Anyway, like I'm saying, though, this is what makes me feel insane. This is what absolutely makes me feel insane. That the more people that Israel kills, the more of these discussions we're having, and the more hearings and people on the media, people in politics.
Behind them and were a number of Jewish students from those schools in the audience, sitting behind them, and to watch just the fear as they're listening to the presidents of these universities fail to answer a basic question of moral clarity, it was abysmal. They don't deserve the dignity of resigning. They need to be fired. For a number of
the free speech police. The free speech police have logged on. Is there another one of these dorky kids? This guy. Okay, one more thing to look at and get mad at, and then we can go back to watching the lobby, because I think it's really actually interesting though to see that strategy being employed, and then to watch the lobby to understand like how that functions. I think that's really like useful actually.
Well, I am both honored and thankful to be here. I should not be here today.
No, you shouldn't.
I should be studying for my upcoming finals. I should be taking in every moment, every experience as an undergraduate student in my senior year of college.
Just for the small crime of supporting genocide, people are being
because
mean to me.
36 hours ago, I, along with most of campus, sought refuge in our rooms.
We sought
as classmates
refuge in
and
our
professors
rooms.
chanted proudly for the genocide of Jews while igniting smoke bombs and defacing school property. The neighboring university's president immediately released a statement describing this as a brazen display of anti-Semitism. He went on saying, "Silence in the face of last night's demonstration of anti-Semitism and hate near our doorstep is not an option for me." Well, the doorstep of the neighboring university is in fact Penn. And in fact, Penn's president did choose silence. The neighboring university's president swiftly denounced the incident, and yet our president cannot. Because the glorious October 7th, and you're a dirty little Jew, you deserve to die, are words said not by Hamas, but by my classmates and professors. And because despite all of this, I am adamant and hopeful that we will not accept, least of all embrace, this horrific new normal on college campuses today. On October 7th, Israel was attacked. Since October 7th, American Jews have been under attack.
Can we see some crying
My
robs
name
again,
is
please? Just a few more crying
robs. I am a
robs.
proud American
Please,
studying at the University of Pennsylvania. I love Penn. I've wanted to attend this university since before I can remember. I'm here because the Penn I attend today is unrecognizable from the Penn I once used to know. Penn, once renowned for groundbreaking discoveries like the mRNA vaccine, is now a chilling landscape of hatred and hostility.
He's
Our
vaxxed.
university, revered for its pursuit of
just
knowledge,
lost your whole
has
audience,
devolved
buddy.
into an arena where Jewish students tiptoe through their days, uncertain and unsafe. The situation at Penn has escalated into a full-blown crisis, with students openly asserting their intentions to proceed with plans with or without university permission. During COVID, strict guidelines governed everything from class attendance and graduation talks.
The tough guys, you know, the conservatives.
Yet now, when students and faculty defy policies
Snowflakes
to
who need a
intimidate
safe
Jewish
space.
students,
Like, it seems like this guy wants a safe space, right? There's no other way of describing it. It seems like this guy's a bit of a snowflake that doesn't want his precious little feelings hurt and needs to have a safe space, so he's protected by the mean words that people are using.
is the same resolute enforcement. For the past 3 weeks inside Houston Hall, our student center, an anti-Semitic headquarters has been erected with signs spreading Hamas propaganda. The organizers, both Penn-affiliated and not, were initially asked to leave as they are trespassing on campus property. Well, 3 weeks later, they are still sleeping there, and countless Jewish students have been harassed, yet the anti-Semitic dormitory remains. Clearly, both a disregard for school policies and permission to disregard them by a university unwilling to do anything. Not only are tensions palpable, but there have also been materialized actions taken to intimidate and harm students. A bomb threat against Hillel, a swastika spray painted, the Hillel and Chabad house is vandalized, a professor posting the armed wing of Hamas's logo on Facebook, A Jewish student accosted, "Jews are Nazis," etched adjacent to Penn's Jewish fraternity house. Why doesn't the university hold the perpetrators of such acts accountable? Is the university fearful that they may offend those who wish to intimidate and harass their fellow students? Penn's ambivalence fuels a crisis that has shattered my academic sanctuary. Policies meant to safeguard us have become hollow promises.
I've heard that rumor as well.
And let us be clear, if they fail Jewish students today, tomorrow they will fail the rest of us. Nonetheless, I refuse to go.
Let me just hear that again.
Shattered my academic sanctuary. Policies meant to safeguard us have become hollow promises. And let us be clear, if they fail Jewish students today, tomorrow they will fail the rest of us.
Does that mean what I think it means? If they fail Jewish students today, tomorrow they will fail the rest of us. Does that mean what I think it means? Well, it's scary. I don't know. I just kind of assumed that he was, because he's taking this pro-Israel position. But as we know, some of the most fervent supporters of Israel, especially in the United States government, are not Jewish. But you would think if you're talking about the safety of Jewish students, that's the primary thing that you're talking about right now, you would at least be Jewish, right? If that seems to be the thing you're talking to fucking Congress about. It kind of sounds like, from what he just said, that he's not. These absolute losers.
Nonetheless, I refuse to go back to 1939, when Jews had to hide their religious symbols and hide who they are due to the intimidation and harassment of us. I used to think this was nonsense, fear-mongering, until I was made aware that Penn recommended to students, quote, not wear clothing/accessories related to Judaism. Hundreds of posters mocking the hostages featuring cows instead of humans adorned Penn's campus 2 weeks ago. While on my way to class, I was greeted with chalk reading 90% of pigs are gas chambered. As a student, despite what my university says, I do not feel safe. Let me be clear, I do not feel safe. Luckily, there are policies in place to protect students from the heinous acts I described. Unluckily, the university seems to have no interest in upholding those very policies. It's time for the soul of our university to reclaim its integrity. And it's time for me and my fellow classmates to stop worrying for our lives. Thank you.
Like, this is the thing that just makes me just so... It makes me feel insane, and it's incredibly enraging. Just the more and more we hear about the nonstop violence, over 16,000 people killed. I'm sorry to keep repeating this. Over 16,000 people killed. We know that number is going to go up. Tens of thousands of women and children being killed at this point, and these motherfuckers they don't feel safe. Because someone said a slogan that I don't like. Someone said a little slogan. It is just so embarrassing. I feel threatened. Like I said, if you look at what Israel is currently engaged in right now, the criminality, the barbarity that they're currently engaged in right now, and you support that, you should feel uncomfortable. You should feel uncomfortable. At your school, at your job, in your family, in social situations, because you support ethnic cleansing and mass murder and genocide. There's one thing I forgot to look at, and then we can go to the lobby. We brought up that guy Nomium before. He's just come out of nowhere to be like a massive dipshit all the time in my mentions. This is truly an incredible response, actually, because when I say to Jesse Brown, Jesse Brown's criticizing CTV for describing a pro-Israel rally while Israel's in the process of a mass bombing and mass murder campaign. He's Jewish and he's just very bad at writing. I guess so. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever your background is, whatever your culture is, whatever your religion is, if you support what Israel's doing right now, I don't like you. And I hope you do feel uncomfortable. If you're on the side of peace, if you're on the side of progress, if you want to dismantle colonialism and imperialism and apartheid, then I'm with you 100%, no matter where you're from, no matter what your name is. Anyway, so Jesse criticizes CTV for suggesting that a pro-Israel rally while Israel is killing 16,000 people is supporting of the war. So I said, I think when a country begins a bombing campaign that kills 16,000 people and its supporters hold a rally and wave the flag of that country, it's reasonable to assume they support the war. And then this fucking guy who just will not... Of course he's got the Guyana flag. He has the Guyana flag. And he's got the Dennis Wilson avatar. And Evan, you got to change the Dennis Wilson avatar. You're a disgrace to the Beach Boys, okay? So he says, this is anti-Semitism. You're conflating Israel with all Jews as justification for them being attacked abroad, which is not what I was doing, first of all. Also, eye emojis, you were pretty silent on the rest of the surrounding Middle East conflicts that killed much more Palestinians, such as the Iraqi-Iranian war, and the Saudi-Houthi war, and the Syrian civil war. So, number one, yeah, maybe I should have spoken more about the Iran-Iraq war in 1988 when I was a child. And I apologize, Chad, if you want to hold me accountable for not speaking out enough about the Iran-Iraq war that ended in 1988, I apologize. Thank you for calling me in. I apologize for not commenting on the Iran-Iraq war. But you want to talk about, he says, it's a good thing that's not the only that's the only conflict in that chart. Otherwise, this might come across as patently disingenuous. And again, it's really easy to find this out. Rob, you criticize Israel, you talk about Palestine, but you don't talk about Yemen. What's going on with that? Well, actually, I do. And if you knew anything about me, you'd known that I've been talking about this for years now. And I've talked about it many times, both on Twitter and in podcast form. And, maybe I haven't talked enough about Syria. Part of the reason that I haven't talked enough about Syria is because the climate around discussing Syria and Assad has been so deranged. But yes, when it comes to Syria, also, I don't support the West arming and funding these extremist groups, Al-Qaeda guys, to fight in a civil war to destabilize a country that we don't like. I'm against that as well, actually. You've been silent on the siege of Constantinople, Rob. Very interesting. Absolutely absurd. I hate this boilerplate rhetoric. You should at least search my feed for Yemen. It's I've been talked about this many times. in a variety of different forums. What is this guy criticizing? He's saying it's anti-Semitic that I haven't talked about Yemen or Syria or the Iran-Iraq war. That's what he's saying. I've been silent on talking about how Saudi Arabia is bad. Anyway, that's the kind of fucking brilliant geniuses that have been talking to me over the last couple of weeks. Let's learn some more about how the Israel lobby works. Now that we've talked about these pro-Israel campus activists. Let's go back to the Al Jazeera documentary about the lobby. And we can learn more about how this whole process works and how this strategy has been in place for now a very long time on college campuses. Rob, you've been conspicuously silent on when you've been conspicuously silent on the matter of where was Rohan when the Westfall fell. The Westfold. Shit, I forgot I messed up the line. Sorry. Oh, I saw the Avatar game is out as well. I think I might have to get that. I think I might have to get the Avatar game. Okay, the lobby. And folks, also before we get started on the lobby episode 3, please, if you can, subscribe to TRRS. Like I said, I think it's going to be my last stream of the week. Because my son's school is on strike tomorrow. So if you can, please subscribe to TRRS. It's $5 a month. It's totally free of charge if you have an Amazon Prime account, which you can easily convert to a Twitch Prime sub. Every little bit helps. And I appreciate it a lot. Everyone that can support this channel. It's the only way that I'm able to keep doing this show every single day is through the generosity of this community, which I appreciate a whole lot. So if you can, please subscribe to TRRS. I got gifted. Thank you. Thank you for whoever gifted a sub to Goth Bimbo Next Door. I'm glad to have you in the community, Goth Bimbo Next Door. Some angel. It's apparently your standard Ubisoft open world, but Avatar. I'll take it. I will take it. It really is anti-Semitic double standard in all Western media that they don't call the whole war on terror genocidal, but Rob is the very worst about it. I don't know if I'm just misreading that. But yeah, it's when we employ that language and when we choose not to. Okay. Just kidding about that last part. Rob claims to hate genocide but remains silent on my mass killings in Diablo 4. I'm sorry about that. I'm very sorry. So before we move on, folks, one final plea. We made a little bit of progress. One final plea. Hello? I think this thing is maybe malfunctioning. One final plea. If you can please subscribe to TRRS. Every little bit helps. Every small little bit really, really helps me out a lot. And it's the only way that I'm able to continue doing this program each and every day. Maybe my wire is like messed up or something. What's going on with that wire? One of these bad wires. Do not buy the Avatar game just because it's a tie-in.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob
you never
to
finish
talk you
Cyberpunk.
through
How
all
can you get
this.
me pudding if you don't eat your own meat? I don't know if I'm going to finish Cyberpunk. I don't know. I just don't know if I've got it in me. I just feel like I'm bad at it. And I might have an opportunity to get Avatar on the sly. Doc, not so strange. Thanks for the gifted sub. I appreciate that. Congratulations, lol, whatever, dog. I went to the dentist for the first time in forever. Hell yeah. I got big time dentist anxiety, so you did a good thing. You did a good job. Okay, here's episode 3 of The Lobby. On the sly. You know it.
Previously on the Lobby USA, our undercover reporter revealed tactics used against supporters of Palestinian equal rights.
That's okay, 3 geese.
You have to show that they're racist.
I don't have any money either. That's why I gotta ask people for slubs here on
Tony is being
Twitch.tv.
recruited to work undercover for the lobby.
It's a hostile environment and there's some risk involved.
His assignment? To investigate people on a blacklist drawn up by a website called Canary Mission.
It's an anonymous site. Nobody has any idea who's actually running this thing, and people have tried and looked into it.
In the third of a 4-part series, personal attacks,
You can count on me
smears on
and have good
anonymous
old Rob
websites,
to talk
how
you through all
sections
this.
of the pro-Israel lobby use unscrupulous means to discredit supporters of Palestinian civil rights. Using an undercover reporter, Al Jazeera's investigative unit infiltrates one of the most powerful lobbies in the world.
Thanks for the gifted sub, Riskinverse. Thank you, I really appreciate it.
We examine how the lobby, led by AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, has secured unwavering support in Congress.
Congressmen don't do anything unless you pressure them. And the only way to do that is with money.
What the lobby is all about is to make sure that Israel gets special treatment from the United States forever.
But after occupying Palestinian lands for half a century, the pro-Israel lobby is facing a new challenge.
We called for a full boycott of Israel, divesting from it, and eventually imposing sanctions on it to achieve UN-stipulated rights of the Palestinian people.
A movement to boycott, divest, and impose sanctions on Israel, BDS, was formed on American campuses.
It seems to be achieving its goals. It threatens future American support for Israel.
We believe in justice for all people. That means the occupation has to end.
Israel's Ministry of Strategic Affairs responded with a covert operation to defeat BDS.
אתה צריך לעשות את זה עם הרבה מאוד עמימות. זה לא גוף צבאי היררכי שאם הרגנו את X, אז כל הגוף מתחתיו לא פועל.
The Israeli government leverages Jewish organizations in the diaspora.
Absolutely.
It's a psychological campaign involving spying and smears.
You discredit the messenger as a way of discrediting the message.
Just stay on message. And what is that message? BDS is a hate
And again, you have to... I'm not muted, right? Okay. Again, you have to wonder when you see incidents like this, like congressional hearing, where these students affiliated with pro-Israel groups on campus, you got to wonder whether there's any contact with these groups and these like official Israeli lobbying arms like AIPAC or whatever other fucking demonic lobbying institution that we're talking about. You know, you have to wonder because we're seeing in this documentary tangible evidence that these lobbying arms are deeply implicated with making connections with these campus groups and creating these exact kind of like media situations.
While our reporter monitored
I'm going to say
pro-Israel
yes as
groups,
well, actually.
he was asked to go undercover for the lobby.
You're going into enemy territory, not for everybody.
During his summer in Washington, Tony investigated how the lobby is responding to the growing support for BDS among students. AIPAC has an established network across high schools and universities and is also part of the wider campus coalition against BDS.
I work with the DC schools, so I can connect you to Georgetown, GW, American. I think that you would really benefit from a conversation with the Israel on Campus Coalition. And they also coordinate a lot between organizations. So like AIPAC, we focus on political. We have one very specific, very effective angle for combating BDS. But the ICC pools resources from all of the campus organizations so that like they're tapped in on all angles.
The Israel on Campus Coalition is a coordinating group at the front line of the battle against BDS.
We built
Israel
up
on
this
Campus
massive
Coalition.
national political campaign to crush them and to fight back and to fight fire with fire. What we saw was a growing global movement to destroy Israel that was manifesting on American college campuses.
Any of this
Makes
sound
sense.
familiar?
Try to poison the next generation. The one thing every
Does
member
it
of
ring any
Congress,
bells for
president,
anybody?
ambassador, and newspaper editor has in common is, by and large, they spent
This is
a little
5
bit of
years
time on
ago,
college
this
campus.
documentary.
Probably those were formative years.
The Israel on Campus Coalition is at the center of the lobby's response to BDS.
Better your shirt. He's got the Homer
There are
hat,
100, maybe
the
120
oversized
now
novelty
professionals
cowboy hat.
that are working for a dozen national ICC partner organizations like APAC and Hasbara Fellowships and Stand With Us and Hillel and Chabad and API.
Stand With Us and the ICC have a particularly close relationship.
The Israel on Campus Coalition, they really oversee like the whole movement. They're sort of the ones that like have the bird's eye view.
Yeah, it does, crowd
Let's
babes.
say like next week, a BDS resolution comes to campus. So
Wait, you have no idea,
they'll
Pickwan.
organize a
Seriously.
conference call with all the partners. So they might
This
say,
shit
okay,
is so
yeah,
sinister.
either
And
we're
look at what's happening on college
something
campuses right
regarding,
now, like
the
today.
BDS resolution. The campus newspaper wants us to write like an op-ed. Can you guys help like the op-ed? So they'll sort of be the ones, and they'll sort of be overseeing it.
One of Tony's fellow researchers at the Israel Project had also worked with Stand With Us. One evening, Amanda told him how the work she'd been asked to do often made her feel uneasy.
And stuff we produced, I felt was it would be like pictures of Palestinian kids with a knife. Those videos of like kids gonna like stab people.
You're making memes supporting the murder of kids.
Memes, like, do, like graphics about like that.
You're making memes that support and justify the murder of kids.
It was in everything. It was in like presentations on Palestinian terrorism that you did to college students and high school students. And it was like on our Facebook pages.
Like, if that's the kind of stuff you're spending your time doing, you should feel bad. You should feel intimidated. You should feel uncomfortable. I was embarrassed to be associated with it, but you did it, though.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed to be associated with it, but you are associated with
Were they going to universities and using that kind of language? Or?
Yeah. Universities, articles, Facebook, everything.
That Jersey guy was an intern at Stand With Us? You mean the guy that we just had on, we were just looking at? Catalepsy? Do you have a source for that? He has a LinkedIn. Let's take a look at it.
At the Israel Project's offices, Amanda confided further in Tony. Her boss at Stand With Us instructed her to call BDS a racist hate group as often as possible, she said, because it polls well.
Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at innocent, poor, innocent college student, Eyal Yacobi, who just wants to be able to go to school in peace. He just wants to be able to go in school in peace without all this horrible, dangerous climate of anti-Semitism. He's just a poor little guy. Look at that. There it is. Wow. A high school intern from August 18 to June 2019 with Stand With Us. Fascinating. Fascinating. Do we see what's going on here? Right? We're already learning. We're already learning how the Israeli lobby works. You get trained as a high school student in these Zionist pro-Israel organizations like Stand With Us, and you get trained on using these accusations of anti-Semitism, weaponizing these accusations in order to shut down any pro-Palestinian solidarity movement, any criticism of Israel, and then you go into the world and you do just that, and then you get invited to little congressional hearings where you talk about your feelings and how you're scared. You're so scared. You're so scared. You feel so scared and unsafe, you see. Very interesting. Wow. Let me find that guy just one more time. Let's just take a look at that one more time. And we were wondering about that line in the speech too about the rest of us, and we were wondering like what that meant. And probably what that means now that I realize it, we said like, oh, he's Jewish, he's just really a bad writer. What was the more likely scenario was that he did not write this speech. I think that's the more likely operation. We just saw in that documentary of people that work for these organizations openly talking about this kind of thing. Oh, can you write this op-ed for us? Can you write this speech for us? That's absolutely what it is. If Jewish students aren't safe right now, no, it's before long they're going to come for the rest of us. What did you mean by that?
As a student, despite what my university says, I do not feel safe. Let me be clear. I do not feel safe.
I do not feel safe, says A.L. Yacobi, former intern with Israeli lobbying organization Stand With Us. Doesn't feel safe. That's very interesting, isn't it? Maybe he did write it. I don't know. But it's either really poorly written or it's a cut and paste speech that he was given to give at that hearing. Let me be clear. Anyway, look at that. We're learning about how the Israel lobby works. We're learning about it in real time. We're looking at this documentary. The lobby came out in 2018, right around the time that this exact guy was an intern with the organization Stand With Us, which we were just talking about in this documentary. Very interesting. And I am willing to bet just about anything that anytime you see one of these students standing up at one of these schools and being part of these like Israeli friendship organizations and giving these little speeches and using this kind of tactic, I'm willing to bet that you can trace them back to one of these campus organizations that's being propped up by the official like Israeli lobbying arm. I think we could say with just about 100% certainty. Mossad cutouts, but then again, like we don't talk about this doesn't count as foreign interference in our society, right? And this is how it's framed, right? HD, oh, it sounds like you're talking about these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, but it's not a conspiracy theory when you have like the people that are involved in it openly admitting it. It's so fun. It's so sinister, seriously.
At the Israel Project's offices, Amanda confided further in Tony. Her boss at Stand With Us instructed her to call BDS
Stand
a
With Us, the
racist
exact
hate
same
group
lobbying
as often as possible, she
organization
said, because
that
it polls well.
college student, that fearful for his life we were just looking at, belonged to.
Stand With Us also had what she described as a covert group which would slander people as anti-Semites. It made her feel uncomfortable. Amanda recalled how Stand With Us was involved at her university. Students who criticized Israel's treatment of Palestinians were routinely accused of anti-Semitism.
The pro-Israel side would say things like, it's anti-Semitic.
Smiling.
Say things like, why are they targeting Israel and not other Arab countries? You know, like, look at all this bad
You just
stuff
said that to
happening
me.
other places, and
Very interesting.
you know, and
Someone
Israel
just
is, like,
accused me of that
like, they would
exact
say all this stuff that was
thing.
like so irrelevant.
Fascinating.
Do you think that there have been well-intentioned activists on American campuses who have found themselves in very difficult situations because these pro-Israel groups have tarnished them as anti-Semites?
Oh, absolutely.
Seeing him
Stand With
spill
Us
all like that
holds
after a
an
few
annual
drinks reminds me of
conference in
Elaine
Los
in
Angeles.
Seinfeld. For sure, you get them the schnapps.
Its focus is on how to fight the BDS movement.
To reveal the true nature of BDS.
BDS tentacles too, they're leaning on their own anti-Semitic tropes.
That will settle for nothing short of the annihilation of the Jewish state.
Jacob Bain from the Israel on Campus Coalition linked BDS to the rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes in America.
Anti-Semitism is increasing in general, right? In the same way that we're seeing anti-Semitism increase in the community, we're seeing these awful, terrifying desecrations of Jewish cemeteries. Campus is no exception.
At a social event held by a pro-Israel advocacy group, Tony finds out more about Stand With Us. Many here are recent graduates with backgrounds in student politics.
I was the chief of staff for my friend who was our student senator. We had Stand With Us write some checks, but we didn't let them put their logo on it. It's just our names on the logo. We didn't want that association because on Berkeley campus...
Whoever you rated yesterday had a very cogent argument as to why Zionism itself is actually the real anti-Semitism because it reduces the safety and security of Jewish peoples. Well, it's honestly a tactic that is used by Zionists, who actually want diaspora Jewish people to feel less safe. They want them to be more unsafe because they want them to be scared and terrified and believe this idea that the only place they can ever possibly be safe is if they go to their apartheid, heavily armed, militarized ethno-state homeland. Like, they encourage it. They encourage anti-Semitism. They want Jewish people around the world in every community to feel less safe and to feel like everyone around them hates them.
If you don't know,
You're safer in a war zone than MIT. That's right. That's the,
As well
the
as
fucked
working
up
behind the
Zionist
scenes
logic
to
that they want
provide
you to believe.
funds, Stand With Us helps pro-Israel groups denounce students who support equal rights for Palestinians.
we've used Stand With Us.
This is I'm really happy that we're watching this. Sorry to keep repeating this, but I'm really happy that we're watching this in light of like what we're seeing right now with campus activism and all these accusations of anti-Semitism and all these tactics. You can see these are tactics that they've owned over years. And the people that are doing whole like boot camps to learn about this exact tactic in order to shut down this kind of advocacy, whether it's BDS or whether it's the anti-genocide movement that is becoming a mass global movement right now. You see these tactics are very deliberate. It's not this new thing. And there's a very deliberate and sinister effort to use these tactics on university campuses to shut down any support for Palestine, any criticism of Israel. And that's why we can't take a word these people say seriously. And I'm sorry if that sounds insensitive, but that's where we're at now. That's exactly why, when you see how fucking sinister and nefarious this is and the way that these tactics are all deliberately employed and have been for a very long time, we can have nothing but contempt for anyone that tries to engage in this kind of obviously astroturfed bullshit. We can't give one quarter to people that are making these arguments. It's not being done in good faith. And if you've been twisted up enough inside to actually make these arguments without being connected to this kind of like lobbying arm, then you've gotten used. Didn't catch the beginning yesterday. When is this from? This is from 2018. This was an Al Jazeera documentary from 2018 that actually didn't end up airing because the Israel lobby worked to shut it down.
On my campus to have them publish stuff when we wanted stuff published. One girl that was running for our student senate, her last name's Dick. So my
The summer of 2014, the Gaza bombings happened. There's a lot of activity in the Bay Area, a lot of protests. You hear intifada, intifada, intifada. So, and I asked someone, I was like, oh, what does that mean?
When Sumaya stood for the Student Senate at Berkeley, the Arabic word meaning uprising inspired her election slogan.
My last name means faith and governance, a way of life. There was other hashtags, so it was like Din for the Win, Din Dynasty, and didn't really like them. So when I launched my campaign, it just seemed fitting to launch it with, hashtag Dintifada.
She ran on the hashtag Dintifada as her
That's cool.
Dintifada, her last name's Din. So my Din.
That's called good branding.
This isn't okay.
It is okay. And I'm sure they tried everything they can to destroy this young woman's life.
On Sumaya's campaign and her character.
We had a campaign party. It was a
That's how much we care about the safety of college students. We target young brown women and frame them as being terrorist supporters and blast that out all across the entire world. And then our fucking allies in mainstream media and politics jump on and try and destroy these people's lives. That's how much we care about college students and their safety and their ability to be in a safe learning environment.
The next day, Stand With Us completely took my campaign slogan.
This is a crazy coincidence that we watched that guy and his speech, and now we're learning all about Stand With Us.
It's just an Arabic word.
The lobbying arm that he interned for around the time that they were making this
redefined it to
film.
then serve their own purpose.
I swear I did not plan it
redefinition
out
to me
like this,
was
but I'm happy that it
healing of
worked
all
out like
Jews.
this.
Sumaya received a barrage of abuse on social media.
Remember when congressional Republicans held hearings about this? They're doing it right now.
They called you a frustrated, sexually repressed woman. They said you were
Like they're hauling in the presidents of all these schools with all these exact same accusations and tactics.
They wanted to kick you out of the country. How hard was all that to deal with?
Yeah, I distanced myself from that. I would go out and I would be walking on campus. Everyone would be looking at me. I felt like I needed to hide. It took me 3 days. I didn't sleep. I was just like, what's going on?
We don't want Stand With Us's name, on our name. have all sorts of followers, and some of those people are a little crazy. You have people that saying like that person should die. This girl was getting death threats. People are like, she's a terrorist, blah blah blah.
You know, they care so much about the safety of college students. Made to feel unsafe for non-fake reasons. That's right.
Campus politics then, like even if it's
They get money, but it's rare that they put their name on something.
All these people just drink and just divulge all their secrets. Like, what the fuck are these? These are the worst spies I've ever seen.
At the Israel on Campus Coalition in Washington, Tony discovered that the lobby is deliberately adopting a clandestine approach on campuses.
We should stand behind our work, not in front of it. It's not helpful for Stand With Us to say to a pro-Israel student, or the Israel Project to say to a pro-Israel student, oh, sure, we'll help you, but you have to put our logo on it. We're working like so closely with Stand With Us, and we have such a tight partnership with them today that like it's totally seamless.
Tony also discovered that anonymity is a key strand of the campaign against BDS.
If one of these terrorists on campus wants to disrupt a pro-Israel lecture or something and like unfurl a banner or whatever else, we're going to investigate them, look into bad stuff they've done. That stuff becomes very useful in the moment, and there are any number of ways to push it out. The only
And
thing
all
is
of
that
this
we do
stuff
it
is
purely and anonymously.
like
And that's the
intelligence community tactics as well, right? Mossad, the CIA.
It was a Sunday. I was in the kitchen. My partner was in the living room with my daughter. Came in with her laptop, and she said, "You've got to see this."
Bill Mullen has been a campaigner for the BDS movement for years. His wife had been sent a link to a website containing a letter addressed to her.
This letter purported to be by a former student who said that she had been sexually harassed by me, and she had found other students
God,
at
that's
Purdue
sick.
who had had the same experience, and she was writing this letter to tell their story.
With the anti-Israel people, what's most effective, what we found, at least in the last year, is you do the opposition research, put up some anonymous website, and then put up targeted Facebook ads.
Within a very short time, within about 48 hours, we were able to establish that these multiple sites that we had found attacking me had been taken out almost at the same time, and that they were clearly the work of the same people.
Every few hours, you drip out a new piece of the opposition research. It's psychological warfare. Drives them crazy.
One of the accounts said that in the process of supposedly putting my hand on her, I'd invited her to a Palestine organizational meeting. And I thought, well, you're sort of putting your cards on the table there, whoever you are. We found out that a student at Purdue, who I work with, had also been targeted.
A former activist with Students for Justice in
This makes
Palestine
both
agreed to speak only with
Jewish
her face
people,
concealed.
Arabs, and just women on campus look
It
less
said that
safe
I would get
engaging
drunk
in this kind
and
of smear
go
campaign.
and have sex with multiple guys, and that's just a huge attack on my character and a massive lie. My parents were very upset. They immediately told me to quit my involvement with SJP.
They either shut down or they spend time responding to it and investigating it, which is time they can't spend attacking Israel. That's incredibly effective.
The main focus was to attack my reputation and my
This
character.
is insane.
Pretty much to mess with me so that I don't want to continue my involvement with SJP.
It was really an attempt by people who didn't know us to think, maybe I can destroy this marriage at the very least. Maybe I can cause them horrendous personal suffering. The same letter purporting to be harassment to my wife used the name of our daughter. I think that was the worst moment. I think we thought, these people will do anything. They're capable of doing anything.
Could you send me some of these websites? I'd be very curious just to see what they look like.
I couldn't.
They're laughing about it.
But, you know, Canary Mission is a good example. Canary Mission is highly, highly effective.
Don't
to the
take
extent that we
anything that
monitor
these like
the Students for Justice
pro-Israel
in
campus
Palestine and their
activists say seriously, ever.
I remember it was the morning.
Not
I was
for even a
getting ready for
moment.
School. I was about to graduate at this point, in a pretty cheery mood, I'd say. I got a Facebook message from one of my friends. She goes, "Hey, Marcel, I don't mean to freak you out, but I think you should see this." I click on it, and then I see it's a picture of me, and it's my name, and it's a profile about me. When I saw that this was a website dedicated to taking down pro-BDS activists and painting us all as terrorists and anti-Semitic, it was chaos. It was chaos in my mind.
This is all being sponsored by a foreign government.
Look at my name on Google. Are they going to think I'm a terrorist? Are they going to think I don't like Jewish people?
And they're picking out individuals who they think are critical of Israel.
No, of course
and
not.
they're smearing them. And they're telling them that what's going to happen here is if you don't cease and desist from acting like this, we in the end will do much to destroy your career.
A few years later, these individuals are applying for jobs within your company.
Canary Mission's promotional video threatens to pass these smears on to prospective employers.
Ensure that today's radicals are not tomorrow's employees.
It was shattering to me because I had to look for a job. I had to start my life. And now I had this website smearing my name before I even got a chance to really make a name for myself.
Somebody did contact my employer and ask for me to be fired based on my pro-Palestine activism. They said that, you know, if they continued to employ me, that their values are anti-Semitic. It can be really scary at first. I was mostly harassed via Twitter. They were tweeting me like every 2 or 3 days. They take screenshots, even way back to my Facebook pictures that don't even look like me anymore. Just digging and digging through my online presence.
They're terrified of Canary Mission, and it's about time.
We had always been afraid of ending up on there. It was like very personal. They see us as such a threat that they have to kind of twist and turn and delve into our personal lives. As if they were trying to scare us into stopping our work. Their Twitter campaign is relentless.
Is this like equivalent to Russian memes and CIA influence? I would say it's so significantly far beyond anything that we've ever accused Russia of doing. With their like maybe some targeted ads on Facebook or like whatever active measures. Remember all the libs? They learned that word, and then the Russian active measures. Everything became Russian active measures. This is so far beyond anything that China or Russia or any of these countries that we accuse of trying to interfere in our society have done. Like, it is insane that this is allowed. This is our closest ally doing this shit. It is just projection. It's always projection. A better equivalence is what the United States engages in other countries, for sure, too. Like, this is it. It's not just Israel doing this. This is how America influences education and culture and society around the world through this whole, like, NGO complex. And funding journalists and funding training military guys and funding college educational initiatives. Oh, having nonprofits and NGOs. It's the exact playbook.
Every picture that I post on Facebook, it goes onto one of their websites with every tweet that I put in. Every hashtag I post on Instagram, it goes into one of their files.
The research operation is very high tech. When I got here a few years ago, the budget was like $3,000. Today it's like $1.5 million or more. Probably it's like $2 million even at this point. I don't even know. It's huge. It's a massive budget. We've got major political consulting firms on retainer that are here all the time. We have our own opposition researchers. We have a lot of communications capabilities, and
What's most interesting about it, I think, is that 90% of the people who pay attention to this space very closely have no idea what we're actually doing, which I like.
Caffeinated, I try to be.
As he left his meeting at the ICC, Tony reflected on the way Jacob Boehm had reacted to his questions about Canary Mission.
We do it securely and anonymously, and that's the key.
It sounds very similar to like a Canary Mission and that kind of thing. Is that,
Yeah.
Are you guys like in touch with them at all, or is there any kind of, no?
No, Canary Mission is totally anonymous.
Yes. Yeah,
it's hard to figure out who's behind it.
Canary Mission is highly, highly effective to the extent that we monitor the Students for Justice in Palestine and their allies. We're doing it back. I mean, not we, but this some anonymous group.
We don't know who's behind it. I would ask where they get their money from, because ultimately that tells you where the control is.
Yeah, we know where it's coming from.
In part 2, we reveal for the first time who set up and finances Canary Mission.
He called a group of us to ask us what we thought. I told him actually I thought it was a bad idea, but he did it anyway.
And how the pro-Israel lobby uses smears to try to change American law.
Investigate us for what? For doing nothing wrong?
And doing it back.
In part 1, how anonymous websites smear
What does that
supporters of the BDS movement.
Use the name of our daughter. They're capable of doing anything.
It's psychological warfare. Drives them crazy.
Not saying ownership, but I think it's not serious.
Our undercover reporter, Tony, is having a coffee with Eric, his boss at the Israel Project. Tony wanted to find out more about Canary Mission.
There's a guy named Adam Milstein who you might want to meet. He's a convicted felon. That's a bad way to describe him. He's a real estate mogul. When I was working with him when I was at APAC, I was literally emailing back and forth with him while he was in jail. But he's loaded. I mean, he's close to $500,000.
Adam Milstein has become a central figure in the lobby. His foundation funds numerous pro-Israel organizations. He also sits on the boards of AIPAC's National Council, the Israel on Campus Coalition, and Stand With Us. Our reporter filmed him alongside Jacob Boehm from the Israel on Campus Coalition at the Stand With Us conference in Los Angeles. The two men had lengthy private discussions. Milstein is close to probably the wealthiest donor to the pro-Israel lobby, Sheldon Adelson. Adelson's money helped Milstein expand the Israeli-American Council into a major new force within the lobby.
I think Sheldon Adelson just bought a big stake in the Dallas Mavericks.
Adelson
Mark
arrived
Cuban
at the
just sold a big
2016
stake of
IAC
the
conference
Mavericks
with
to
Rudy Giuliani, now
Adelson.
an advisor to President Trump. An IAC video from the conference
Shout out
shows
to the Mavs
Milstein and
fans.
Adelson discussing their partnership.
You said you see the vision and you tell us go and do it. And we took your orders and we made it happen. And we took your money.
And Sheldon Adelson died, but his family is still very prominent in that world, though.
No, there's no... Sheldon...
Eric is wary of Adelson's relationship with the U.S. president.
He's really impulsive. If he gets a call from, Donald Trump, comes to get all the pro-Israel organizations to start helping us. He starts twisting their arms and putting pressure on them. Like, I give you $1 million. You better start putting out TV ads. Like, what the that's not our goal. It's not our mission.
Tony attended the Israeli-American Council's annual conference. At a party, he spotted the IAC's chairman, Adam Milstein.
It's very important we're proud Jews. We're not, I was born Jews, but I'm really not Jew, and I'm not sure I'm proud Jew. We're proud about our history. We have strong connection to the land of Israel. So this Israeli identity is now all over the world.
I'm Tony. I'm in the Israel Project with Eric Gallagher.
Milstein told Tony how critics of Israel should be handled.
First of all, investigate who they are. What's their agenda? They're picking on the Jews because it's easy, because it's popular. We need to expose what they really are. And we need to expose the fact that they're anti-everything we believe in. And we need to put them on the run. Right now, they can do whatever they like, terrorize us, and we are...
How do we put them on the run, though?
doing it by exposing who they are, what they are, the fact that they're racist, the fact that they're bigoted, that they're anti-democracy.
Do you think there's a good role to just naming them as anti-Semites?
Not just anti-Semites, it's too simple. We need to present them for what they really are. They're anti-freedom, they're anti-Christian, they're anti-democracy. That's what we need to do.
Numerous groups from the pro-Israel lobby were attending the conference. An Israeli official gave them a message to pass on to BDS supporters in America.
Everybody out there who has to do anything with BDS should ask himself twice, do I want to be on this side or do I want to be on the other side? If I'm submitting to BDS, what would be the effect? We've got the budget. We can bring things to the table that are quite different.
In episode 1 of The Lobby USA, Tony discovered that the Israeli government has launched a covert campaign to gather information on American citizens.
We have 3 different sub-campaigns: data gathering, working on activist organization, money trail.
The Israeli official named one organization that was a partner in its covert campaign, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, or FDD.
This is something that only a country with its resources
This
can
is
do
from
best.
2018, Dr.
We have
Awesome.
FDD. We have others working on this.
She names the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy as an agent for this foreign government going after American citizens. I mean, that quote is a smoking gun.
Yeah. Sorry, are you Jonathan? Hey, I'm Tony. Hi. I met up with Benny Weinstein.
Jonathan Shanzo works for the FDD. He produces research on the financing of armed groups.
Yeah, I'm very interested in getting involved in like BDS activity and stuff like that.
Hopefully anti-BDS.
If you had on tape a senior Russian or Iranian or even Canadian official saying that they were
Hey, you mentioned
running
us.
covert operations to spy on Americans and using an organization like the Foundation for Defense of Democracies as a front group, I think it would be a bombshell.
Shanzo was invited to talk at the training workshops that Tony attended.
Think tanks are the folks that used to work in government, have PhDs, and decided not to become professors. In the Middle Eastern Studies field, academics have failed, and that's why people like me are considered useful, at least to some.
To call it the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies is a misnomer. It's the Foundation for the Defense of Israel. When you strip away all the layers of the onion and you
The
look
only
at
democracy
what you
in the
really
Middle East.
have, what you have is a foundation that is dedicated to one goal, and that is defending Israel at every turn.
The FDD's mission has been to associate students who support BDS through links to charities and pressure groups, ultimately to Hamas, which governs the besieged territory of Gaza.
We found out that there was a coordinator who was being paid to make sure that the activists from a certain group called SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine, who was working with all the different SJP chapters around the country to make sure that they all have the same message. So we said, wait a minute, who are these people? That kind of sounds like a little bit like a network. We took a little bit of a deeper dive. We found out that there was one organization.
It's interesting how they use all the exact same fascist
Shanzo's
tactics that
mothership
fascists
is a group
use
called
against
American
Jews.
Muslims for
They use
Palestine.
all the exact same tactics.
Here's the remarkable thing. Is
They
that
use
this
Nazi tactics to go after critics of
has
Israel
employees
and
that
Arab and
used to
Palestinian
work
student
for
groups and their
charities
allies.
Here in the United States. Many employees, as a matter of fact. They used to work for the Holy Land Foundation. Does that name ring a bell to anyone?
The Holy Land Foundation was the largest Islamic charity in the United States. In the aftermath of 9/11, the government accused it of funding terrorism.
With this action, we go beyond the Al-Qaeda network to target groups whose violent actions are designed to destroy the Middle East peace process
Hamas emerged as a resistance movement, challenging Israel's occupation of Palestinian land. The United States lists it as a foreign terrorist organization. 5 members of the Holy Land Foundation were later convicted of sending money to Hamas.
Almost 90% of all those Arab and Muslims that were targeted in the United States post 9/11 were targeted because of their engagement with the Palestine issue. They had nothing to do with being members of Al-Qaeda, have no relationship whatsoever to what's so-called transnational terrorism.
There's been a very strong trend from Israel and its advocates since the September 11, 2001 attacks to portray Israel as part of a civilizational war where Israel is on the Western side and Israel's critics are on the side of the terrorists.
According to reports in Israeli newspapers in 2008, Prime Minister Netanyahu said 9/11 had been good for Israel. The attacks had swung American public opinion in its favor.
It's not surprising one of the largest cases that we had in this country was the shutting down of the Holy Land Foundation. If you look at all those that were targeted in relations to the Palestine-Israel conflict and their engagement politically.
Turns out there are 3 individuals currently working for what we'll call a mothership that used to work for the Holy Land Foundation.
3 former volunteers at the Holy Land Foundation are now involved with American Muslims for Palestine. None of these individuals has been accused of any wrongdoing in the United States.
So I'm thinking, okay, terror financiers. I used to do this for a living. I used to work for the Treasury Department tracking terrorist money. I know these guys. What's going on here?
We have no affiliation with any foreign organization. We don't receive money from overseas. And this mothership organization,
which all
is
these
a very
Israeli
small
lobby groups
organization.
But the pro-Israel advocacy class heard another message.
It was that the primary driver of the BDS movement in America is all populated by people who are former Hamas charity employees. This is not a grassroots
Hamas charity employees.
This is not a grassroots movement. It is being coordinated by very
None of the
bad
rhetoric and none of the
people,
tactics have
and
changed.
It needs to be made known.
Think tanks like the FDD play an important role for Israel in the media. Their selective use of evidence is often presented as legitimate academic research.
Oh, man. Oh, man. On these electronic intifada live streams we've seen over the last couple of weeks, we've seen Rafat in Gaza, aka I translate 123. I literally, like, his last tweet was December 4th, was 3 days ago. And people were starting to ask questions about where Rafat was. I wrote Rafat a DM earlier today. I wrote Rafat a DM earlier today to say, I hope you're okay. People are looking forward to hearing from you again. This is just from 11 minutes ago. The assassins targeted, went after, and killed the voice of Gaza, one of its best academics, Rafat al-Arir. Man, that's fucking... I said this morning, I wrote Rafat a DM this morning saying, I hope you're doing okay. I see many people are starting to ask about you. We're all looking forward to hearing from you again. And that's fucking horrible. Like we watched that clip a couple weeks ago of Rafat and Ali Abunimah like on Electronic Intifada. We've learned so much from him over the last, and I have anyways, like over the last couple of weeks and months. That's just absolutely horrifying. I should, because I noticed this today. He posted this poem on November 1st. On November 1st, if I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel's there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale. I mean, one of the most harrowing things about like following this over the last 2 months, not only just the nonstop stream of atrocities that we've been forced to see, but like following journalists in Gaza, journalists and poets and teachers, and following them and hearing their words and hearing their stories, and then just like having them go silent. Like there's been numerous cases of this. It's absolutely horrifying and heartbreaking. I was really, really hoping that he was going to come back. It's just absolutely horrifying. I'm really sad to hear that. I'm really going to miss Rafat's voice.
They try to educate people to understand that Israel is effectively a Western liberal democracy in the sea of terrorist states, which is the Arab world. The other goal is to intimidate and to smear people.
Shanza is invited by pro-Israel congressmen to provide evidence before subcommittees on terrorism in the Middle East. He uses them to insinuate that prominent activists for Palestinian equal rights are linked to armed groups.
AMP's founder and president, Hatem Bazian, was one of 2 featured speakers at a 2004 fundraising dinner in California. Incidentally, the other speaker at this dinner was Mohammed Al-Mazain, who is currently in jail for his role in the Holy Land Foundation and for providing financial support to Hamas.
When you enter it into the congressional record, now people are begin to think that there's some legitimacy to it. So this dumping of utter nonsense and garbage into the congressional record, into
slowly
a legitimate
extinguishing the
hearing,
candles, bringing
will
light to
have
the darkness
a
of this
effect
terrible terrorist
down the
regime.
line.
There's also Osama Abu Ershad. He is currently the National Coordinator and Policy Director for AMP. Mr. Abu
So
Ershad
you'll
also
excuse
runs
me
a
if I don't
pro-Hamas
take the concerns of these fucking college students that are connected to this vast Israeli lobbying arm and their concerns about how unsafe they are. You'll excuse me if I stop taking that seriously in any way. And stop playing this game where we pretend these people are being honest or have good intentions. They're fucking liars and propagandists and really spies when it comes down to it. I'm unsafe on the Penn University campus. Fuck you.
newspaper in Virginia.
They made Palestine as a front on the war on terrorism. It was Al-Qaeda that attacked the United States. It wasn't Hamas or any Palestinian organization. It was Al-Qaeda.
I should note here that our open source research did not indicate that AMP or any of these individuals are currently involved in illegal activity.
He himself, in his testimony in Congress, he says, we have no evidence of any wrongdoing by this organization, but still you have to investigate them. So investigate us for what? For doing nothing wrong?
The fact it's rubbish does not mean that people don't listen to it, right?
Shanza's allegations that American students are somehow connected to armed groups in the Middle East has become part of the lobby's attempt to demonize BDS.
Organizations that have spread throughout the world via a network of carefully constructed proxies.
We should promote the fact that, according to Jonathan Shanzer, who knows terrorism, he said a group of people who were actively funding Hamas have now formed a group, American Muslims for Palestine. Shanzer, testifying, said they're a leading driver of the BDS campaign. They're the most important sponsor and organizers of SJP. We have to make it clear in every way possible that they are being funded and trained by vicious lovers of Hamas.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hi everyone, how's it going?
Tony spoke again to his contacts at the Allgemeine newspaper. They want him to go undercover at a rally supporting BDS. They want Tony to find a connection between the activists he's supposed to spy on and the Holy Land Foundation.
There's a long history of crimes affiliated with the BDS movement that have been judged as such by US courts. For example, the Holy Land Foundation. Are these people still active and present within the movement? Who seems to be the people running the show here? Is there any acknowledgement of any sponsors?
This is an incestual business. You know, they're all interconnected. This is not me just spouting off because I'm paranoid. There have been actual cases, like the Holy Land case that happened a few years ago. A lot of these guys had worked with those people, and they themselves have not yet been indicted, but they're
All the students are in on it. I guess, does any of this sound familiar to what we're listening to right now?
Why that is so crucial is because when you're making lines from one organization to the other, eventually you make a line to Hamas, to Hezbollah, to Iran.
Sounds good. Well, we're grateful to have you. Let's see how it goes.
While he considered his undercover mission for the Allgemeine, Tony set up a meeting with Jonathan Shanzer. It was at the office of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
You too.
At their earlier meeting, Shanzer had stressed the importance of links that connected students who support BDS to the Holy Land Foundation and then Hamas.
Okay, we can look at that
now
after.
He was more
Dr.
downbeat.
Maggot.
The lobby is apparently failing in its attempts to discredit the movement.
BDS has taken everybody's surprise. It's come up behind everyone's back and bit them on the ass. Yeah, that's a complete mess. I can tell you that I don't think anybody's doing a good job. We're not even doing a good job. We did some good research, but we haven't figured out how to do anything with it.
Shanza is unhappy that his alleged links between Students for Justice in Palestine and Hamas have not been publicized more widely.
The stuff that I shared with your group, our hope was to really, make this something that people could sink their teeth into, but no one has turned it into, no one's weaponized it, is probably the best way of describing it.
The slurs the lobby once relied on are no longer working.
Personally, I think anti-Semitism as a smear is not what it used to be.
Shanza's now trying to link BDS to a small Palestinian faction that once was involved in militancy, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine.
So you got Hamas on one hand, you got PFLP on the other. Sooner or later, this stuff will come to light.
Yeah, absolutely, St. Louis. The whole paid protest thing.
When I've got enough.
They think the only way that anyone can support is if they're being paid to do it. It's how a lot of these lobbyists and propagandists
fill the
think.
pipeline of as much research and information.
Always a confession. The paid protests, you're being paid to promote these things.
Civil society assassination of Arab Muslim Palestinians in such a way that they will not have an entry into the debate.
Shanza claims he's found yet another means of discrediting the BDS movement, this time connecting it to the Muslim Brotherhood.
The problem is the Muslim Brotherhood's not an illegal organization in the United States. So you can say that that's bad, but if there's no legal link, there's no, there's no law enforcement angle on any level, then it becomes really hard to win.
The Muslim Brotherhood is a loose international movement which endorses the political expression of Islamic values. Congress is now considering designating it as a terrorist organization.
They are moving right now with a bill to try to ban the Muslim Brotherhood movement. So the strategy that is being deployed, which is create the demonization, filling the garbage can with as much material as possible, especially from a Congress and Senate.
We've been dealing with the radical Islam from the Islamic Republic since 1979, the Muslim Brotherhood since the 1920s. You've got the Islamic State, you've got the Islamic Republic. Their hatred for Israel, their Islamist ideology is what really motivates the terrorism that they carry out.
You have to attack their weaknesses better than they attack your weaknesses. That's war.
Why they're doing this? Why they're going after our organizations? It's always connected to the issue of Palestine. They always try to connect us, to connect dots that they don't exist.
Terrorism is a very effective word. And what a lot of people in the lobby try to do is describe pro-Arab or pro-Palestinian groups as terrorist groups. There's no doubt that when you employ the tactic of identifying Muslim or Arab or Palestinian groups as terrorist organizations, that you're promoting Islamophobia.
Shanza is a popular speaker at the pro-Israel campus events that Tony attends.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
You too.
Welcome.
A panel discussion at George Mason University is an opportunity to promote the FDD's research to a friendly audience.
My organization, FDD, earlier this year concluded a deep dive study into the fiscal and corporate sponsors of BDS, and we found several troubling connections to the Palestinian terrorist group Hamas, an Islamist supremacist organization that seeks nothing less than the annihilation of the state of Israel. I recently published research just this week showing that BDS groups get help from other Palestinian terrorist organizations like the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine. The problem is that most students don't know who is behind BDS, and most Americans don't know. And this is why BDS is gaining traction.
AMP is the de facto national leadership of Students for Justice in Palestine.
I'll just be right back.
There is an actual direct connection between the people who were involved in raising money for Hamas people who are involved in BDS activism on American campuses today.
Pollock claims that SJP is just a front to hide the real agenda of American Muslims for Palestine.
You'll notice their name is Students for Justice in Palestine. You don't hear the word Islamic, you don't hear the word Muslim in that name, and you hear the word justice, which is kind of a buzzword on campuses today. Everyone's for justice, right? You're not for injustice. The crowd that's kind of behind the scenes is actually a very Islamic radical cause. And if you actually get like into the weeds on SJP, they've aligned with groups that are for the, not just the destruction of Israel, the destruction of America.
That's a narrative that suits Israel because it takes the pressure off Israel to actually end what it's doing to Palestinians. But it's an incredibly dangerous narrative for the whole world, and I think we're all paying the price of it.
Pollock even accuses Jewish supporters of BDS of being in league with Hamas.
Which is Jewish Voice for Peace, or as I call it, Jewish Voice for Hamas. It'd be like having a group called, like, you know, African Americans for Slavery. You know, it's like, it's crazy, right? A lot of the JVP people are not Jewish. They've had a real problem of like people basically pretending to be Jews because the anti-Israel activism it's a little more sexy.
You're here speaking with the rabbi. I work for Jewish Voice for Peace. I mean, we're a Jewish organization. I mean, again, I think that's another kind of absurd claim.
When you talk about SJP and when you talk about BDS, you talk about them as a hate group, as a movement that absolutely endorses violence against civilians.
These are hate groups. These are hate groups. These are hate groups.
As a movement that
I'm talking about these
endorses
Israeli lobby affiliated organizations. They are hate groups that endorses violence against civilians. Remember, every accusation is a confession. These are hate groups. They're anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, and anti-Palestinian hate groups that support the Israeli government having perpetual right to commit violence against Palestinian civilians. That's what they are.
violence against civilians, not military conflict, but violence against civilians, aka terrorism.
16,000 people killed in Gaza over the last 2 months, aka terrorism. Yeah, exactly. It is terrorism.
As a way of discrediting the message.
Radical religious fundamentalist hate
Eric
groups,
was
if I may.
also at
Yes.
the event. He's old friends with Noah Pollock.
I want to hire Tony at the Israel Press. Tony's another troublemaker from the UK. He's a good guy. Noah's the best.
This guy really got in deep with these groups. It's really crazy.
As Tony left the event with Eric, the conversation turned to smearing BDS supporters. Eric said wealthy pro-Israel donors now have the freedom to fight Israel's critics however they want.
In this country, you have these billionaire types who are starting to realize, like, oh wow, I don't need to participate in the Republican or Democratic parties. I could build my own apparatus and have influence from Los Angeles or Detroit. And Adam Milstein's one of those guys. And he funds the Israel Project. He does a lot of great work.
Eric then made a remarkable claim.
I know it's
when
Platage.
Tony
We just
asked
figured
about
we just
Canary
learned
Mission.
this.
Who are the people
I'm
involved?
fucking devastated by
It's
Rafat.
him.
Adam Milstein.
Yeah, I don't know who he hired to oversee it. Adam Milstein. He's the guy who funds it.
We need to expose the fact that they're anti everything we believe in. We need to put them on the right.
So Adam Milstein, he funds the Israel Project and he's funding the Canary Mission website.
Yeah, which is interesting because it makes it seem as though we're a part of it, but we're not. Actually, I was involved with the effort to start the Name and Shame. He called a group of us to ask us what we thought. I told him actually I thought it was a bad idea, but he did anyway.
They've lost the political argument. They can now do nothing but resort to personal smears against us. They can't engage us in discussions of the occupation. They can't defend apartheid. They can't defend the bombings in Gaza, but they can try to destroy our lives.
Kind of really desperate and pathetic almost, you know, going after students, trying to compromise their futures because they're trying to fight for social justice.
I know a guy actually is working with Adam on all sorts of digital spying. There's a group of like anonymous people who have a very sophisticated digital strategy for exposing these people and making sure the stuff stays with them. Yeah, that's awesome. There's no one on their side doing it, so you don't have to worry about your reputation.
There's no one on their side doing it. It was just funny because earlier they said like, "Oh, we're just doing it back to them." He openly admits there's no one on their side doing anything remotely like this.
In episode 4, how the pro-Israel lobby is fighting the public relations war.
The activism has to be like very provocative and attention-getting, and just like a total like no given.
And how the Israel Project is laying the ground for a future conflict with Hezbollah.
We have to be ready because that war will be won and lost. You know, the court of public opinion, not the battlefield.
That was episode 3. I don't know how many episodes there are. You got episode 4 next. Is episode 4 the last one? I think it is. Yeah. I would like to, timing wise, I would love to be able to get to that tomorrow, but I don't think I'm going to have the time. And I got to go in about 30 minutes. Before I go, I just, Dr. Maggot sent this in. Sorry, what was the timestamp? Catch your 14:30.
What I'm saying here briefly is that it's extremely horrible. The infrastructure, it's unprecedented. I'm not exaggerating again if I'm saying that this is the Blitz again all over, like what happened in London by the Nazis. Unfortunately, by the Israeli Zionists who claim to be the descendants of the victims of the Holocaust are inflicting yet a similar plight, similar catastrophes against the Palestinians. We know that it's very bleak, it's very dark. There's no way out. If there's no water, there is no way out of Gaza. What should we do? Like drown? Like commit mass suicide? Is this what Israel wants? And we're not going to do that. And I was telling some friend the other day that I'm an academic. Probably the toughest thing I have at home is an expo marker. But if the Israelis invade, if they barge at us, charge at us, open door to door to massacre us, I'm going to use that marker, throw it at the Israeli soldiers, even if that is the last thing that I would be able to do. And this is the feeling of everybody. We are helpless. We have nothing to lose.
Rifat, you're an academic and you are a teacher and you have inspired and taught and mentored many of the writers who contribute to the electronic intifada. Are you in touch with some of your students and colleagues? Are you able to stay in touch with people around you and to...
I just ventured out to the pharmacy to bring some medicine. And my car was almost bombed 5 times. Just
how do you live
just
like
driving
that?
for 5 minutes to the pharmacy to bring medicine to the little ones, painkillers and stuff, and can only imagine how horrible it is. I took some videos, and these are, if you're counting, it's like every couple of minutes. These are just the ones around where I live in the Gaza city in Tel El Hawa, and you can multiply this by 100 times all across the Gaza Strip in Rafah. And it's not easy to call people. It's not easy to contact people, especially family members in Shujaiya, most of whom had to leave their homes. Israel has just destroyed the Palestinian telecommunications company with no internet, no electricity. There will be barely any internet or access or signal to call people. Sometimes I was just calling my daughter, and it took me like 5 tries just to get her to answer me. I am in touch with the people, with some of my friends, my students. I try, but I'm helpless. Like my students, I'm teaching English poetry this term. I was teaching them your poem, Ali, and they always love it. And I always tell them that how poetry can be your weapon. It's your strongest weapon. It's what you need to do to carry to do this. But I'm lying to them. I think I'm lying to them if I'm telling them that this is your strongest weapon, and Israel is pouring tons and tons of dynamite, of U.S. made missiles up on our heads. I posted, I keep posting messages, trying to reassure them, sending prayers to my students and their families and loved ones, knowing pretty well that many of them will not be back, and some of their family members, their homes. And I'm getting a tweet just now and messages that the Islamic University was targeted. I'm praying that this is not true. If that's true, that's like almost 1,500 people without jobs, and 20,000 students without classes, without benches, without university degrees. So Israel, it's an open, it's a war against everything. There is nothing that Israel did not hit, and there's just one message. It's a message of hate, of death and destruction. That's it. There's no message because, and I don't like to say this because I don't want to be using the Israeli captives as a way to dissuade the Israelis, so to speak, from bombing. But these bombs will definitely harm and hurt the Israeli civilians, so to speak, and soldiers captured in Gaza, in Gaza Strip, in the Gaza Strip. But maybe Israel is bombing this hard so that they can kill those people, those Israelis, before they kill the Palestinians, so they don't have to free the Palestinian political prisoners. We are dealing with people that are extremely horrible. Like they are literally inciting genocide and taking words from the Nazi language and Nazi discourse. What else do you expect? I mean, the least you could expect, there was this, I think, was it the Jewish Congress that tweeted something about the Holocaust, that the number of Jews killed by the attacks from Gaza exceed any day of Jews killed during the Holocaust. And this is categorically, mathematically, statistically, it's wrong. And it's a minimization, trivialization of the Holocaust. But look to what extent they are willing to go. This is Holocaust denial, not only revisionism, because statistically, it's not even close. But they are willing to exonerate Hitler and the Nazis in order to demonize the Palestinians and justify the upcoming genocide. It's going to be ethnic cleansing. We don't know, in a week we're going to be in the sea, buried under the rubble, or buried in graveyards if there is space, or in Sinai pushed out to die in the desert.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dr. Maggot. I totally agree. I wanted to see if I can find, because this was something that we watched on this stream October 13th, which I found really touching. And
country.
I wanted to we can watch this again, this clip from Elia Bunima on another live stream a few days later, and also Rafat's response, which is so beautiful and touching and poignant.
Always scream the loudest about the Holocaust and say never again, and we have to learn the lessons of history, particularly American and European leaders, are the ones who are most actively supporting this Holocaust in Gaza. They're sending airplanes full of bombs to drop on Palestinian babies. This is the thing that has for me broken any belief I have in all the supposed principles we were taught to revere: human rights, international law, democracy. The people who come to lecture us about human rights and democracy and international law are the ones who are doing this. The White House spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre, said that calls for a ceasefire for Gaza are repugnant. What kind of world do we live in where calling for a ceasefire is repugnant? These people worship war. They worship death. They want us to be nice victims.
Yeah.
They want us to be polite. They don't like it when we're angry. I get messages saying, oh, you should present yourselves better. You won't win support if you're angry. What support did we win for all these years? All these years of advocacy, of meetings, of lectures, of speeches, of meeting with politicians. Not one European politician objected to cutting food and water and electricity from children. Not one. Not one Arab country of those regimes run by traitors withdrew their ambassadors from Israel or closed their embassies with Israel. What is this? What is this hell we're living in? People come to us for analysis. I don't know how to analyze this. I don't know what to say to people. Our hearts are broken when we see this world that allows the scenery that we're seeing in Gaza today. Massacre after massacre after massacre of whole families, of 583 children as of this morning. By the time we finish this live stream, the number will have gone up. And this is a world that lectures us about human rights and democracy. I don't know how to face you and to face people in Gaza. And I don't know how to say to you that I'm sorry we failed.
I mean, that was such a powerful moment from
Arab-
Ali Abunimah, and then Rafat's response. I think when he says that, when he says we failed you, his response I thought was really, really incredible.
I'm sorry we failed.
Thank you, Ali. I think we didn't fail. We did not. And that's when it comes to end. No, we didn't. We didn't submit to their barbarity. We didn't submit to their brutality. And even when this attack came when Gaza was in its weakest time possible. Look at what they did to the most invincible army in the area, the fourth strongest army in the world. The humiliation. But it's not only about that. This is not where we get our pride. We get our pride from staying principled.
It's just really devastating. What can you even really say about that? I don't know. I don't really even know what to say about that. I'm fucking devastated. I'd really that was how I discovered Rafat's writing, was through that live stream. So it's really just been like through the last 2 months following his words and his commentary and while this has been unfolding. And it's absolutely fucking devastating. Yeah, and his last tweet is correctly linking Joe Biden and the Democratic Party to be directly responsible, and they are. Ugh. This is why we fight every day. You know, it's something I appeared on a podcast the other night from. You just get the name of the podcast so I don't forget. From Brandon Durden. He does a podcast called the Powerless podcast. That should be coming out today, actually. And I talked a little bit about that. And you know what? It's just like, we talked a little bit about, you know, we've looked at the Israel lobby and the kind of accusations that get thrown around when you try and stand on the right side of history here, you know? And what they're going to do, the possibility that you might lose your job, the possibility you might get deplatformed, which is scary. You know, it's scary and intimidating to be called an anti-Semite, or for people to suggest that you support terrorism or the murder of innocent people, or threaten to lose your job. Like we all have to pay the rent. Some of us, got, whether you have kids or not, like you need to have a job in order to function in our society. Being threatened to lose your job, being threatened to be deplatformed, you know, being accused of all kinds of horrible things. But I also think, and so like that is scary, and I get when people do find that intimidating. You know, I genuinely do. I'm scared right now. I'm scared right now that I could be deplatformed for saying some of this stuff. I'm scared that I could be, you know, smeared or accused of these things. I could lose my source of income. Like, I don't know what I would do in that scenario. I also think though that like it's important right now. Like, think of the bravery of like living your life every single day under this kind of like bombing campaign, and not knowing whether you're going to live or die every given day, or your children or your family. Not knowing whether you're going to be able to eat. And it's like, if the most we have to be fearful about is that we're going to lose our jobs, well, I kind of think that, and it is legitimate. I don't want to delegitimize anyone that is nervous about that in this moment. But if that's the worst thing we have to worry about right now, it's like, I think that's the least we can do, is just be brave. We can be brave in this moment, regardless of whether we're scared or not, regardless of whether we're worried about like losing our jobs or losing our income or whatever. I think if it's the least we can do is just to be brave and to continue standing on the right side of history in this moment, regardless of what the possible consequences are. You know, there's nothing that we could do here in the West that's going to come close to matching the bravery of people that have been living through this for the last, to say nothing of the last 2 months, the last several decades, the last 70 years. You know, that's being brave. I think the very least we can do is to continue to be brave here and refuse to allow ourselves to be intimidated by people who want to frame us as being anti-Semites or terrorism supporters because we do not support the Israeli government and their fucking absolute grotesque criminality. You know, if that's the worst thing we have to worry about, losing our jobs, then I think we're doing pretty well overall. And the more people that refuse to be intimidated like this, and the more people that continue to be brave in this moment, and the more people that continue to speak out regardless of the consequences, the more difficult it is to enact this climate of fear. That only works when they make an example of somebody and everyone else is too intimidated to continue to speak out. But it doesn't work when we all refuse collectively to be intimidated, and we continue to protest no matter what they say. No matter what they say about these protests. And we continue to demand a free Palestine from the river to the sea, regardless of what these fucking liars tell us these words mean. They tell us, they insist that these words mean that we want the genocide of all Jewish people. We're not going to allow these people to lie in this way and control what we can think and what we can say. And the more people that refuse to collectively be intimidated like this, the more difficult it is to continue to make examples of people. None of our lives are in danger. None of our families' lives or our children's lives are in danger. So I think the least that we can do is continue to be brave in this moment, even if it is intimidating. And I get it. I understand the feeling. But the absolute least we can do is continue to be brave and continue to do the right thing. And join an org, it makes being brave a lot easier. That's true. If there's an organization that you can join, that you trust, I think everyone should do that. Anyway, I would like to be back tomorrow. I just don't think it's going to be possible. I'm going to have childcare stuff to do tomorrow because, my kid's school is on strike. We will, though, finish the rest of that documentary, The Lobby, because I think it's really, really fascinating and chilling. And you can see, when you see these tactics, you can see when these tactics are being employed against you. And when you know that these kind of tactics are just totally disingenuous and not being made in good faith, then you know that you can just ignore it. You know that you can ignore anybody that uses these kinds of tactics to try and silence you or to try and silence people's ability to protest or to speak out. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. GMO Radio. Thanks for the gifted sub. I appreciate that. I got to go in about 5-10 minutes. If possible, please subscribe and support the show if you can. I'll be back on Monday. I've really appreciated the support from people over the last couple of weeks who have allowed me to come on here and talk about this stuff every single day. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that without the people in this community. I'm certainly not getting any. You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this. I'm certainly not getting any invites into our mainstream media to talk about this stuff. The only way that I'm able to come on here and do this show and talk about this and have these conversations is through the unbelievable generosity of people in this community. And it really has meant a lot to me. It always has meant a lot to me, but especially over the last couple of weeks. Thanks, Max, for the 2 gifted subs. Nikki Haley that we all different ways. I saw the whole thing with Nikki Haley saying, if you look at TikTok, you become 17% more anti-Semitic every hour you spend on TikTok or something absolutely insane like that. And these liberal Zionists, this is what you sound like to me. There is zero differentiation between Jesse Brown and fucking Nikki Haley. They support the same things. One is maybe making the arguments under this guise of this liberal, serious journalist, and one of them is a deranged neocon. Ultimately, they still support the same thing. So again, it's the last stream of the week. I gotta go in 5 minutes. If there's anyone else that wants to support TRRS, the show that you're watching right now, it feels very weird to be saying this at the moment, and I'm very not comfortable with it. I hope people understand. This is the fucking sick and gross thing about doing this job, especially this moment.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Maverick, thanks for 25 months tier 1. I appreciate that, Maverick.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And Kijiji Genie as well. Thank you for the gifted sub. I really appreciate
You've
that.
just become an elite member
Kijiji
of the
Genie.
Friendship Triangle.
Weird Luck, thank you for the 5 gifted subs as well. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you, Weird Luck. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Anon, for the gifted sub as well. Yeah, I know one who reads. I don't know. But you know what? My desktop audio is turned up super loud. That's why. Usually down a little bit. Oh. Weird Luck. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Seriously, and thank you everyone who supports this channel. I don't want to be too sentimental or whatever, but you know, I'll keep saying it. I could not do this without people showing up to watch, to listen, to support the community. I just couldn't do it, and I'm really, really grateful that I'm able to have whatever platform that I do, to be able to do this kind of like commentary, to be able to have these kind of discussions. You know. It really means a lot to me. We need more subs and bits to test the new volume setting. Thank you, one who reads. Thank you. A measly 13 subs to go, it's true. I really have to go though. So I don't know. I don't have the full.
You can count on me. You're
the
gonna
full
have good
time
old
to
Rob
really like
to talk you through all this.
go hard on this. Thank you, Anon, for the gifted sub. Thank you for that. And now we do have a hype. God, it feels. I hate talking about this right now. I really do. A mere measly 12 subs to go though to get to the goal. And it is the last stream of the week. I will not be around tomorrow, unfortunately, even though I would like to be, because I would like to watch the rest of that, the lobby documentary. Thank you, Anon, for the 420. Maybe I could do something in the evening. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. We'll see. That's the weed number. Thank you, Anon, for that. It's the weed number indeed.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Comrade Bushy, as well, for the gifted sub. $420, aka the sex number. That's right. I wonder what that would be. Like, what would that describe? Oh, that's. I'm glad to hear that. Up the Reds. That's really fantastic. That's really cool.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
M Squatch. Do we got another Squatch? Do we got another Squatch? Thank you, M Squatch, for the gifted sub. They're multiplying. Ms. Squatch lost her Twitch account because it's too spicy. Too many crazy pro-Hamas statements were being made. You need to get a new account. We got about another 30 seconds. There are 2 of them now. There's actually 3. This is 3 Squatches now. This is like outrageous. Thanks again, everyone. I'll try to come back to do something at some point. That's very vague. Give my regards to Hildy Beast. I love you all. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.